Good evening and welcome to the September 26th, 2023 Parks and Recreation Commission meeting. Start by a roll call, please.
Chair Greenfield.
Here.
Vice Chair Brown.
Here.
Commissioner Cribbs.
Here.
Commissioner Kleinhaus.
Here.
Commissioner Oche.
Here, please.
Commissioner Way.
Here.
Chair, that's 6 present.
Thank you. And the Vice Mayor.
Vice Mayor Stone.
Yep, here.
Thank you. Now is an opportunity for public comment. If there's anyone joining us this evening who would like to speak to an item that's not on the agenda, or anyone who's joining us online who'd like to do the same, now's a good time to raise your hand online, or make sure you turn in a speaker card.
Chair, we have one in-person speaker. Mark, you have 3 minutes.
Thank you.
Good evening, commissioners. My name is Commissioners and Talking Head Electronic Council Member Greer Stone. Thank you for your service. My name is Mark Weiss. I live in downtown North, and I'm here to talk briefly about music in the parks. And I, for a number of years, have had a private project called Earthwise Productions that showcases public facilities, public plazas, public parks in Palo Alto. And I actually have 3 upcoming, I want to just mention real briefly, events in Palo Alto parks. On October 7th, I have 3 groups playing Lytton Plaza, Flaming Groovies, Sonny Smith and the Sunsets, and Larry and Nils Beat Hotel Room 32 Reed's Howl. And then on October 10th at Johnson Park, also downtown North, my neighborhood, we have Rachel Bayman and Roberta Lee. And then October 13th at the Mitchell Park Bowl, we have Mas Tolling, M-A-D-S-T-O-L-L-I-N-G, who appeared in the city's program a few times in recent years. And overall, I'm up to about 50 shows per year. I had 43 last year. And I also want to give a quick report on Lytton Plaza. Has had some construction. This board oversees it, and I want to tip my hat or my helmet to the Vance Brown Company and Mr. Lauren Brown, who are doing a great job renovating our fountain, which I think this group approved, as did council. It's going to be one of the best fountains in the area. In my understanding, they're a couple days ahead of schedule, such that the fences might come down for my October 7th event. It was originally scheduled to at least finish by the city's Code Art event. So I just want to, I did speak to this board once before on an invitation about music in the park. So I just like to, since I'm here, I'm really here for the dog thing. And shout out, I'm not sure I can stay because my wife, the former Public Arts Commissioner, Terry Acebo Davis, might ping me and tell me to come home and make dinner. But I was biking through and remembered you guys were here tonight. And I want to shout out to our dog professional, Officer Washington, who was my contemporary at Gunn High School, or a couple years behind me, and she's from the Ventura neighborhood. I think she's been with us more than 20 years. I forget whether her name is Janelle or Janine, but she's done a really great job as our dog catcher in recent years. And she did respond to a unfortunate incident Johnson Park not too long ago. I want to shout out to Darren Anderson, who apparently has been here 24 years, hasn't changed a bit, but rumor is he's going to retire to work full-time on his rock band. And Brother Javad, who also was involved in the music scene, and that he coordinated some of my first events at, at Mitchell Park Center. So thank you for your service, and good luck to all the hashing out the needs of the dog people. Thank you.
Thank you. One more speaker.
We do have one online speaker under the email clin999@stanford.edu.
Thank you. If you could please introduce yourself before speaking.
Hello, my name is Carolyn. I sent out a,
Yeah, excuse me, Carol, if you're speaking to an item that's on the agenda, then we'll have you speak when we get to that agenda item. This is public comment for items not on the agenda. So if this is dog parks, you want to hold off, or if it's something else, go ahead and continue. Carol?
I will wait till the appropriate agenda is raised.
Very
Thank
good,
you.
And I'm assuming that's the end of public comment?
That is correct.
Great, thank you. Next up is agenda changes, additions, and deletions. Is there anyone who has any suggestions, comments at this point before we move forward with the agenda as stated? Okay, then we'll start with the approval of draft minutes from our last meeting, August 22nd. Does anyone have any comments regarding the draft minutes?
Chair.
Yes,
I'm sorry, I
Commissioner
have
Cook.
just one.
I have a few too, so feel free.
When I reported the name of the scholarship folks for swimming, I think we gave the wrong name, so that correct name should be Beyond Barriers Athletic Foundation. It'd be great if that could be corrected in the minutes. It's page 14, line 9.
Okay. Any other comments regarding the minutes? First comment I'd like to make is that thank you for putting the headings on the ad hoc items as Commissioner Cribbs suggested last meeting. That was very helpful. And I think that's a great idea moving forward. I had just a few, there's a few lines with this, some typos or word missing. Like though instead of, it should be thought, and changing Mr. Freeman to Commissioner Freeman, et cetera. The one substantive question was on page 9, line 33. And that's regarding, there's a 1.1. The commissioners was talking about how an ad hoc had met 1.1 times. I wasn't quite sure what that was. Oh. Okay, well, maybe we can put a smiley face after that then. Okay, great. Thank you. Other than that, Javad, I'll hand in my corrections to you and get these fixed. Any other comments regarding the minutes? If not, I'll ask for someone to make a motion to have them approved.
I move approval of the minutes.
Thank you, Ann, in a second. I'll second it. There we go. And if we have a roll call vote on this, please, Javad.
Chair Greenfield,
Yes.
Vice Chair Brown,
Yes.
Commissioner Cribbs,
Yes.
Commissioner Kleinhaus,
Yes.
Commissioner Oche,
Yes, please.
Commissioner Way.
I was absent. Am I allowed to say anything?
Abstaining is a good thing to do.
Okay. Abstain.
Chair, that's a 5-0 vote with 1 abstained.
Thank you. Now we'll move on to the department report.
Good evening, I'm Darren Anderson with the Community Services Department. Let me start with our recruitment. We are filled our 2 vacant assistant park ranger positions, and now we're recruiting for 3 vacant open space technicians. We are in the final stages of the hiring process for our division manager of open space parks and golf. Really looking forward to having that position filled, and I'll be sure to introduce you to that person very soon. Recreation programs and events. The Moonlight Run will be this Friday, September 29th at the Baylands Athletic Center. There'll be a 5K walk, 5K run, 10K run, and a half marathon, and the times are there for you. And for more information on this or to register, you can visit the Palo Alto Weekly website. The city will be hosting our 4th Moonlit Jack-O-Jaunt. So please come down and walk through our jack-o'-lantern displays on Friday, October 27th from 6:30 to 8:30 at Lytton Plaza. And if you don't have space to carve your jack-o'-lantern at home, you can sign up for the Jack-O-Jaunt workshop and carve it at the plaza itself. Space is limited and you do have to sign up for that one. For more information, you can go to Enjoy online at cityofpalto.com. You can email them for more info. The Palo Alto Masters update, there was a temporary coaching shortage. So the coaching staff of the Palo Alto Masters, consisting of 2 coaches, simultaneously went on extended leave for 3 to 4 weeks. In order to continue the services program, an alliance is formed with Menlo Masters to share coaches between the 2 facilities. So Tuesday, Thursday, Sunday, master swim workouts will be held at Rinconada Pool, and Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday, workouts will be at Burgess Pool. And swimmers are invited to use either facility to enjoy the coach-led master swim workouts. Some special interest classes coming up. Fall classes have started for both adult and youth. Special interest 126 class sessions are offered. The current enrollment at 1,048 registrants. The most popular programs continue to be youth and adult tennis, adult pickleball, kids love soccer, adult and youth ice skating, and there are currently a total of 586 people on the special interest wait lists. And the new special interest classes being offered this fall, youth pickleball, both for beginning and intermediate ages, 11 to 15, 4 new Lego programs, a new adult yoga program, and an adult drop-in Wednesday morning fitness class called Cardio Dance with Elisa Ford. The court policy update, Adam Howard reached out to me with this update to pass on. That, just as a reminder, in November 2022, the commission had recommended a policy that would allow pickleball priority access to Mitchell Park dual-use courts 7 days a week from sunrise to 10 p.m. And staff had recommended doing a check-in at 6 months where they would start monitoring and evaluating, as well as forming a citizen community group to help with that evaluation. That stakeholder group to provide the community feedback is currently being organized. And if any community members are interested in serving on that group, they can contact Senior Community Services Manager Adam Howard, and his email is on the screen. The skate park update, I had misspoke in my last update. I thought the contract was in the signature stage. Apparently, the contractor's attorneys and the city's attorneys are going back and forth with some red line revisions to the basic legalese of the contract. So we're still not in contract yet. I understand it should be very soon. As soon as then, we'll be scheduling and starting that work. The 2850 West Bayshore project, the only thing remaining is the restoration of the grass, which has gone fairly well. There was a few barriers that we're asking people to reseed. The contractor did the job, and that should be completed by mid-October. And then the Lytton Plaza fountain repairs, you heard earlier, the project started on September 11th, and we are in target to finish early. The date has moved up since I created this. It's actually October 3rd. The Plaza project will be complete. The renovated fountain will be done. All the fencing will be down. The plaza will be completely open. An update on the Palo Alto Junior Museum and Zoo. We've got the new California Dinosaur Garden. There's a ribbon cutting ceremony and celebration from 10:30 a.m. to noon on Saturday, October 7th. And this California Dinosaur Garden will offer 7 life-size animal sculptures, ranging from the size of a small bird to a 32-foot-long hadrosaur. And this will help kids imagine these animals in their ecosystem. Advance tickets for the celebration will be available for online purchase on September 22nd. And for more information, you can visit paloaltozoo.org. Other updates, just a reminder, we've got our board and commission recognition event coming up on September 28th at 5:30. And then a follow-up, I think you got an email from me on this rabid bat that was found by the Chemise Trail at Foothills Nature Preserve. The bat had tested positive for the rabies virus. Signs were posted. No additional bats have been found in the area or at all. And the signs have been taken down, so people don't have to keep an eye out for that. But as a reminder, just visitors who do find grounded bats should notify animal control immediately and not handle them. Just a couple of our CIP updates. The Baylands Boardwalk, the pile repair project, the permits have been submitted. This is just yesterday, so there'll be a little bit of time for the regulatory agencies to analyze the permits and get back to us. No work will be scheduled until those permits are received and the work window can be prescribed. The Bullware project, construction started on August 21st and the completion date is set for fall 2024. There was a groundbreaking ceremony held on Thursday, September 7th, with 41 people attending that event. The Cameron Park Improvement Project, council approved the contract on September 18th, and we're developing the schedule with the contractor now. We anticipate construction will start in October and be completed in January. And Chair, that concludes the department report.
Thank you. Do any commissioners have any questions for Darren regarding items he brought up or perhaps something else? Shani?
Thank you. So there were news about a young beaver in Matadero Creek. And made me think that it would be nice to have a little kind of cheerful updates about wildlife in the Baylands, not only like rabid bats, but maybe, today I saw the first white-crowned sparrow in my garden. So they're coming from Alaska, and maybe also the birds that are just coming to the Baylands, and maybe some of the opportunities that nonprofits offer for people to participate in the Baylands or at Arrastradero or Foothills. But I'm kind of looking for some happy nature news as well as projects and those things, if possible. And I think it's wonderful that we have beavers here. Hopefully they'll go all the way up to Searsville Dam, and then we won't need the dam, and there won't be any flooding in Palo Alto anymore because the beavers will do their job. So don't laugh, Toby. So anyway, I think it would be good to present here also what is happening in nature. The seasons are important and there's always something exciting happen. So let's share it.
Gladly.
Thank
Anna?
you.
Oh, yes. First of all, Darren, thank you very much. It's certainly been a busy month. The 586 people on the waiting list are you able to tell who are Palo Alto residents and non-residents?
I don't have that information, but I'm glad to inquire.
Just was curious about serving Palo Alto residents. And then just to confirm, the ribbon cutting is a ticketed event or access to the museum after the ribbon cutting is ticketed?
The access to the JMZ after is
Okay.
ticketed.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And the staff did a really nice job of the park opening, the ribbon cutting, or the
Sure.
shoveling. It was very, very well done. So I wanted to mention that. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
That's all.
Joy?
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you so much for the departmental report. It's great to see that the 2 assistant ranger positions are finally filled.
Yes.
I know that has been open for quite a while now. Big congratulations to the city as well for the California Dinosaur Garden. I'm hopeful I'll be able to attend with my kids, and I'm sure they'll be excited about that. I also want to say thank you for the capital improvement projects breakdown. That really helps, but I'm not too sure if we get it by email or is it posted online? Because I don't remember seeing it. anywhere?
This list that I showed
Like
today,
the slides that the departmental reports, is it possible to share it with us?
I can email it to you.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And then the last thing I wanted to say was to find out if we have a reminder anywhere for the public to know not to touch a dead bat. Do we have it anywhere?
Not with like signage in the preserve. No, we don't. Maybe on the website and general wildlife sort of cautions and care, but we don't have signage up for that. To that level of degree of how to behave with wildlife, we'd have signs everywhere because bats are just one of many species that we've got to be cautious or careful with. But we do that with ranger interpretation and ranger contacts with the public. So the message does get out there on how to behave and how to keep safe with wildlife.
Because I have curious kids. If I'm sure if my kids see a bat, they want to touch it
Yeah.
and, out of curiosity. So just wondering if we are able to tell that message or spread it, appropriately for the public. Thank you.
Bing.
Hi, thanks for the great work. I'm really impressed at the amount of work you were able to do in the last month or so. So I'm especially really glad you actually expanded your classes to special interest groups like yoga, something I'm really interested in. Yeah, I'm actually wanting to ask a bit more about the bats. How do we send out a message to general public or to our citizens in general? Do we go through, say, Paprc Weekly or?
No, for this bat incident where the bat was found sick, it was posted on our website and then signage in the preserve. And it goes up per the recommendation of the vector control, which was 2 weeks and then taken down.
Okay,
Yeah.
so in terms of safety, et cetera, there's no, I'm just curious about the protocol. Like similar thing with the beaver and
That's
how
the
we
protocol
let.
recommended by vector control.
Okay,
Yeah.
got it. Yeah. Yeah, it's actually interesting to know. So for the ribbon cutting, are we all invited to go or so we should mark the calendar? I missed the last event when I was in East Coast.
I'm glad to send out a follow-up email on that and I'll just coordinate with the manager of the Junior Museum and Zoo to make sure if there's anything special I can forward on to the commission.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you. Thank you again for the great work. Thanks.
Thank you.
Vice Chair, anything? Thank you, Darren, for the presentation. And as someone else already mentioned, the report that you're including as part of the PowerPoint presentation, that's awesome. That's great. It would be great to get those linked onto the agendas.
The PowerPoint itself, Chair?
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
and I don't know if the best way to do that would be to add it to as an attachment after the fact as for the city official report, the department report, or if there's another way that's more appropriate, Javad. But if you could look to add those back into the record, that would be great for everyone, for the commission and the public as well. And just as a general aside, I don't know if you're sharing these. I don't know to what extent these reports would apply in style to other commissions, but I think it'd be worthwhile to potentially share with the other liaisons, at least within CSD as a start. Let them know what you're doing and see if there's something that would be something that they might want to adopt and share best practice.
Will do.
I think it's great. Regarding the Jack-O-Jaunt, are you looking for judges for the event? Or?
No, this one's judged by the general public, so anyone who shows up is welcome to
Great.
submit.
Thank you. The Baylands entrance gate project, what is that?
This is replacing the entrance gate. This is the big steel gate that crosses the road. Two factors that play into the replacement. One, it was hit by a car and badly damaged. And two, the service that we used to use to close the gate in the evening went away with a budget cut a year and a half, 2 years ago. And in the interim, we've gotten by mostly with support from airport staff when they're able to close it. Sometimes it doesn't get closed. And this would change out for an automated gate.
And so this is the gate right off of Embarcadero?
Yes,
The main entrance to
that's right.
the Baylands. Thank you. And that's towards the interpretive center. but
That's
not-
correct. If you
so-
came down the Embarcadero and took a left,
But there's still access to Bixby Park. when
That's
it's
right.
closed. Thank you. A couple other questions. Do you know what the status is of the Coverly restroom? It's, you know, this project that's been approved, and then it has a very long lead time of 10 months or so. Do we know if that's been ordered yet?
yeah, my understanding is that council approved the purchase and the order's gone through. I need to verify exactly how long it will be. The original estimations were somewhere around 9 to 10 months for the order process, but I will get an update on that.
Yeah, if you get a status update on the projected completion timeline.
Sure.
Similar question regarding the Pearson Arastadero construction project. When's all that stuff going away?
Yeah, and what we're really talking about is the utilities department undergrounding and gas line repair projects that they've got that are in Arastadero and Foothills. And I've emailed to ask for an update. I haven't gotten an answer yet, but I'll get back to you on that one
Good,
too.
great. Thank you, appreciate that. And finally, it's at Greer Park in the area where the new construction is going on, there's kind of big piles and big hills of construction dirt. And it's kind of just right outside the park. Are there any issues or concerns with that? It's kind of an odd visual. From one side of the soccer field, you look over and beyond the skate park, you see a mountain of dirt.
I am not positive. I believe that's affiliated with the 2850 project.
Right.
And I know that part of their permits require cleanup of site. I don't know if that is allowed in the permit or not, but I can follow up with planning and see.
That'd be great. Thank you. Any other questions or follow-ups from anyone? Johnny?
Just to add to one of your questions, it seems like the layout yard at the Arastadero expanded. They had an area that was used to store construction materials and all that.
Yeah.
And then that area is now basically really in desperate need of restoration.
Yeah.
But now there's another one next to it. Why?
Yeah, they said they needed this space for the undergrounding project. When we met with them originally, we stipulated that it's going to have to be brought to original condition, if not better. And so they understand that. And once they're done with the project, they'll pull out and we will have them return it to original state.
For both of those construction
For everything
areas?
that they did in the preserve, whether it's undergrounding and disturbed earth, the understanding that I have is that they're going to come back and fix everything.
Some of it is really compacted and there's gravel and it will be really, really hard to return it to what it used to be before they did what they've done. And also some of it is becoming invaded with some invasive species.
Yeah.
And if those are not maintained all along, then you get the seed bank in place and then you get contamination spreading from that site. So I don't know how, but some supervision is desperately needed there.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, then we will move on to our first order of business, or first business agenda item, which is the environmental volunteers update.
Chair, it's my privilege to introduce Toby Goldberg. She's the Director of Programs and Partnerships with the Environmental Volunteers. Thanks so much for being here, Toby.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Give me just a second to get my shared slides. There we go. Okay. So as Darren said, I am Toby Goldberg. I'm the Director of Programs and Partnerships with the Environmental Volunteers. And Shani, I have to say, I was only laughing because my brain immediately went, ooh, the environmental volunteers can help with all of those things. We can help with good nature stories. So for those of you that don't know our organization, we have been around since 1972. We just celebrated our 50th anniversary. We were formed by several local women in desiring to fill a need for environmental science and environmental education in the Palo Alto area. Our primary focus is environmental education. So unlike some of the other organizations that I know have presented here, we do not focus on restoration or advocacy or conservation per se. Our focus is predominantly interacting with the public and helping develop a attitude and passion for stewardship and conservation through what we learn and what we expose them through. We currently have 12 staff members and 10 board. And I'm hoping some of you recognize this building that you see, that we are located at the historic Sea Scout building. We, as our name implies, we are predominantly run by volunteers. So we have hundreds of programs that we run every year, and we do that through the support and the training and the effort and passion of many, many volunteers that are supporting our mission. For our traditional programs, which are based in San Mateo and Santa Clara counties, we have about 60 or more active volunteers that help us support our school programs, our public programs, and our community programs. And then we have a subsidiary organization called Sprout Up, which we acquired about 3 or 4 years ago, which is a national organization. They have chapters in various cities throughout California and New York City, and they are a college student-based organization, and they have over 150 volunteers that participate in their programs. Let's see. So what I wanted to highlight tonight was the 3 areas of partnership that the Environmental Volunteers has specifically with the City of Palo Alto and the Parks and Recs Department. Some of these might be familiar to most of you, and some of them hopefully will be a little bit new. So we have 3 main areas. We have our Eco Center programs that we run at the Baylands Eco Center site. We have participation and support of the Horizontal Levee Project, and we have our Foothills Nature Preserve Trail Ambassador Program. And I'm going to give you a little bit of information on each one of those, and hopefully it will spark some questions, but if not, it'll at least give you some basis to understand how we partner and how well we integrate with some of the City of Palo Alto Parks and Recs Commission goals. So the first area of partnership is simply where we're located. We are located at, as I said, the historic Sea Scout building, which we took over operation of in 2012. It was for those of you that haven't been there, it was a historic building that had been left a little bit to its own devices for about 25 years. And the Environmental Volunteers, through a capital campaign, was able to raise money to get it restored, lifted, renovated, and now it is a wonderful location to work, and it is open to the public for visitors to come in. We have about 150 to 200 educational programs located at our Baylands Eco Center every year. That includes our open hours, where we have touched tabletop hands-on activities. We have computer touch screens. We do nature walks. We have field trips with school groups. We have guest speakers that come for the public, and we have weekend family programs that are open to the public. The majority of the programs that we run at the Baylands are free of charge, and we've done that very deliberately because we want to create a welcoming and open environment for everyone to come and learn about the Baylands and the beauty and the nature that is available to them. So we're trying to reduce some of the barriers for participation. Our programs are for all ages. We specifically target 6 to 11 ages, but we encourage families, grandparents, parents, brothers and sisters, neighbors. We encourage all ages to come. Through these programs, we provide experiences to between 2,300 and 3,500 members of the public each year. So the impact is broad, it is wide, and we hope to keep expanding that. And that has been a wonderful location for us, and hopefully the city feels the same way, that it's been a good partnership. The second project that I wanted to mention as a partnership with the Environmental Volunteers is the Horizontal Levee Project. So our formal partnership began in 2022, but before that, we had had a lot of informal experiences where we were supporting bioblitzes and diversity exploration and community science in the Baylands. As part of the formal partnership, we offer four family nature walk programs per year. So those include our King Tide program, those include our low tide program, and they include family nature walks in general. And the goal is to explore the Baylands and to see how it changes throughout the year, and to give people an opportunity to come back over and over again and recognize that this is a location that every time you come to, there's something different. And it's amazing and wonderful. And to Shani's point, there are some beautiful things that are happening in nature that is a wonderful way to share it with the public. So we try to have a minimum of 4 experiences through part of this partnership. We also do 2 formal Baylands bioblitzes every single year. We try to do one in the fall and one in the spring. And if you're not familiar with the BioBlitz, because I get a lot of kind of blank stares when I tell people that that's what we're doing. A BioBlitz is basically a set period of time where you have a group of community scientists that go out with usually iNaturalist or eBird or some other recording device, and you count every single living organism that you can see. As you can imagine, that's a very daunting task for 1 or 2 people to do. But if you have a group of 50 people and each one gets an assigned location, it's much more manageable. And what they find and the experience of wonder and excitement is just amazing to see. They really get into it. So it's been a lot of fun participating in those BioBlitzes. As part of the BioBlitzes and these formal horizontal levee project activities, we also have activities at our open hours that are tied into those. So during the King Tides walks, we'll have open hours that are all themed about the tides and water and the salt marshes. And we've had 120 participants in the nature walks and the BioBlitzes since we started the formal partnership in 2022. And then our final project that we have as a collaboration with the city and specifically with Parks and Recs is our Foothills Trail Ambassador Program. So that began in 2021 when the city was working on opening up Foothills to all. And it provides volunteer-led engagement of Foothills Nature Preserve visitors. So we help to expand their knowledge and sparking interest in the park, as well as providing helpful information and resources. And again, I think somebody was asking, you know, how do we tell about the rabid bat situation and not to touch them? And I go, ooh. Our trail ambassadors can help with that. That's one of the things that they can absolutely do. We have an info table at Veranda Lake that you may have seen if you've been up there on Saturdays and Sundays when we have the staffing available. And then we have wonderful trail ambassadors that rove around on the trails. They have those bright yellow vests, and their goal is to just excite people about being at Foothills, tell them about what's happening at the park, what kinds of nature they can be seeing at that time of year, highlighting any special events or any activities that they can get involved in at the park. And then we also, in addition to that, as a way to encourage participation and enthusiasm and visitorship of the park, is we have formal nature walks that we lead with a naturalist at least, I think it's once or twice a quarter. We try to do it once a month when we can, but at least twice a quarter we have the nature walks that are open to the public. And again, those are offered free of charge and they are open to anybody who wants to participate. And I think I will end there and give you an opportunity if you have any questions about our partnerships or the organization.
Thank you very much for joining us this evening and giving us an update on environmental volunteers. EV is a core environmental partner for our community, and it's much valued and cherished by our communities. Thank you for all of your efforts. If there's any members of the public who'd like to speak, this would be the time to do so. Please raise your hand if you're with us via Zoom or have a speaker card turned in.
I'm seeing no hands raised or in-person speakers for this item.
Thank you. Then we'll move forward with the commissioner clarifying questions or comments and questions in general. Commissioner O'Shea, would you like to speak?
Thank you, Chair. Thank you very much for sharing an update with us and great job to your team. Thank you for what you stand for and what you do. I'm just curious to know, I know you have other partners besides the city. And in my head, I'm just thinking, how do you offer like programs that we could include in the recreation programs that we publicize in our Enjoy catalog? Is that something that we could leverage on? That's one question. And then the second one is, do you by any chance publicize the results of your bioplays? I feel that that might be a fun thing to share with the community.
So let's see if I remember all of the parts of the question. So the first part of the question was, in addition to the partnerships with the city, what other programs do we run? So the bulk of our programs is actually what we do in the schools. So we have hands-on science programs that we offer for students in K through 6 classes. And we do both classroom-based programming and field trips. And we work with both San Mateo and Santa Clara County schools. So we work from Daly City all the way down to San Jose, and we work with anywhere between 50 to 80 different schools throughout the area. So that is the majority of the programming that we run. We also have a lot of programs that we run for community partners. So we work with, for example, Friendship Circle, which, if you're familiar with that organization, works with disabled youth and special needs students, and they partner them with teen buddies. And we offer hands-on science and nature programming for them as well as part of their enrichment series. So we have a lot of partnerships with other community-based organizations to help supplement their activities and their programs and their enrichment goals for their participants. We have a partnership that we're working on right now with a group called Nuestra Casa in East Palo Alto as well, that provides support to low-income families. And so one of the things that we do is we help give them some field trips and give them some science enrichment that they can provide to their families and to their children. So the partnerships and the programs that we offer are very intended to be hands-on. They're intended to be experiential. And basically the limitation is who knows about us and how many schools we can get into at the same time. Does that answer your question?
I would say yes, partially, and I'm just curious to know how we could help as well.
So I think the way that the partnership with the city works, for example, one of the things that we are hoping to do is we're hoping to leverage the availability of Foothills Park a little bit more and be able to take school groups or community groups up there and use that as one of the resources for some of our nature experiences. We did that this summer with a group called the Karat School Project, if you're familiar with that organization. Okay, thank you. And we have a nature camp that we do with them called Vamos Afuera, which in Spanish means let's get outside, which works with the RV families in Palo Alto. And we did a field trip nature experience up to Foothills Park, and then we had a barbecue with the kids, and it was all funded by the environmental volunteers, the Karat School Project, and the Palo Alto Kiwanis. And so having the availability of Foothills, for example, or the availability of the Baylands has been a huge benefit for these groups. We do nature walks at the Baylands all the time. It's a wonderful resource and it's easily accessible. And again, one of our goals is to try to reduce barriers for people getting outside and getting into the natural world. And the Baylands has proven to be just such a wonderful resource. So that is definitely something that we lean heavily into the partnership with the city, is the accessibility of that wonderful nature resource. And I forgot the second question. You asked me 2 parts, sorry.
Before I go to the second question, I was
Sure.
supposed to volunteer at that event, but I couldn't, and my kids were there, so.
Oh,
Yes,
fun.
my kids attended that event during the summertime, right?
Wonderful.
Yes, I wanted to also point out that maybe you could think about maybe involving seniors, because I know part of the master plan has, I think, a component that says we could move, have some people go in a bus to the Foothills Park. I think it's something that we would, want to look into to explore.
Mhm.
I remember that Commissioner Kleinhaus mentioned something like that a couple of months back about having a bus that goes to, a shuttle that goes to pick up seniors to have a visit, once.
We would love that idea. I mean, one of the biggest challenges, and your kids probably know this, one of the biggest challenges that we have, especially at Foothills, was getting the kids up there and trying to arrange for transportation was a big challenge and a huge cost. And it was something that we were able to do because we had this joint partnership. But having a regular way of transporting, even to the Baylands, there's not public transportation that gets out there. There used to be. I'm not sure what happened to the bus that used to drop off at Embarcadero Road, but there used to be a public transportation option that would drop people off in Embarcadero, and we could get them out to the Baylands. But I agree. I think having some sort of a bus for seniors or for families or something that was a regular option that people knew that they could catch it, and then we could lead the nature walks, or I love that idea, and it's definitely something that we would love to explore more. Our goal is to connect people with nature, and however we can do that is great.
Awesome, thank you. Second question. So I wonder if Palo Alto Links will be able to help. I don't know. They've been very helpful to commute for my son because he commutes from middle school home.
I'm not
I don't know
familiar
if
with
that's
them.
something we could explore as well.
I'm not familiar with Palo Alto Links. Is that a transportation service?
Yes, within the community.
Oh,
Yeah,
Okay.
it's low cost and it's been very helpful to my son in middle school. So
I need to look into that. That would
Yes.
be a great resource.
awesome. My second question was, do we publicize the results of the
Oh,
bio?
yes.
Yeah.
So in theory, after every BioBlitz, we submit a report with the data and the counts and the information that was captured during the BioBlitz. I know we usually post it on our website, and I'm not sure what happens to it once we submit it as a report. So I agree with you. I think it would be a great opportunity to publish that. I'm not super familiar with what the city's policies are or where information gets posted. So I don't know the answer to that question. Does anyone else know what happens to those once we submit them?
Darren, can you suggest the appropriate place for that?
Yeah, maybe I'm mistaken. I thought they might have gone to iNaturalist and that people could log in and see them there.
They do get posted through iNaturalist as a project. So I know that we do have a project that goes to iNaturalist, but this was a little bit before my tenure as the Director of Programs and Partnerships. We had been submitting a regular report to the city as well as part of the horizontal levy project. And I'm not sure where that report goes after we submitted it. So that would be a good
Yeah,
thing to figure out. Yeah.
it's a different department. Doesn't come to
Okay,
me, but
yeah.
I can follow up with them.
Yeah, we can, between the two of us, I'm sure we can figure out where those end up and what's a good way to share that information.
Thank
And
you.
and another possibility related to that would be to have a link on the city website to iNaturalist where the results are.
Mhm.
Uh,
Yeah, the projects are open to the public. Anybody that has the link is able to go. You don't have to have a membership or an account. So that would be something that would be easy to share.
Discoverability may be more of
Yeah.
a concern.
Thank you.
Other commissioners? Thing.
Thanks, Jeff. Hi, I'm really impressed with the work you guys been doing. The data shows a lot itself. And echoing what Commissioner Ochi just talked about, cross-generation learning and the facilitation of transportation. I don't know whether the senior homes all have transportation, like their bus or vans, whether that can be leveraged. And that's just an idea. The particular question I have is curious of your new Foothill Trail Ambassador Program. Do you work with like the Palo Alto Youth Council? Is there a youth ambassador involved from high school locally, or it's basically adults?
So we do have a teen docent program as part of our organization. There was some challenges involving the teens in part of that Trail Ambassador program. So as of right now, the Trail Ambassadors and the volunteers that are up there at Foothills are only adults. We'd actually love to be able to reintroduce the teens. There was some concerns with liability and safety issues, and so that has not yet been resolved. But I know that that is something that we are interested in working through, and we would love to get our teen docents to participate. I haven't worked directly with the youth council, but that would be another resource that we would love to look into once we get the situation with the liability issues worked out.
Yeah, they seem to be doing great work, and Commissioner Ochi and I talked to Christopher, the person who leads that. And also, you're probably aware, I guess, all the cities in the area during COVID, there's a lot of youth mental health issues arise from lockdown, etc. Getting them out, whether as ambassador or as just the youth, using the parks as a concert hall or as a classroom would be a fantastic thing. And yeah, if you have the bandwidth, maybe something to consider.
Yes, it is. I thank you for bringing that up. It is definitely an issue that is near and dear to our hearts. It is something that we are very concerned about as well. And as I said, we have an active teen docent program, and the goal is to connect them with the natural world and to give them opportunities for leadership. One of the things that we've been talking about is we have these family nature walks that are for all ages, but it'd be interesting to see if we could target a teen walk, or we could target a seniors walk, or if there would be ways to market that and encourage additional participation with different youth groups or adult groups or whatever it is. So yeah, I agree with you. I think that is a ripe opportunity for helping support the mental health needs of our students.
Final question, how do you advertise your great program? Because I've been living here, I didn't know you have a family nature work, otherwise I would have participated.
So you are touching upon a complicated question for our organization. At the moment, we do not currently have a marketing staff member.
Okay.
And so marketing is definitely the piece that we are probably struggling with the most right now. We do a lot through Eventbrite because when you have a free program, they'll do a lot of promotion built into it. And we do through our own social media platforms. So we have a Facebook site and an Instagram, and it gets posted through there. One of the things that we were just discussing today, actually, before I came into this meeting, was working with the community calendars a little bit better through the various cities and making sure that those events get posted in the appropriate community calendars. Most of those, as we know, are free. It's just a little bit of bandwidth to make sure that those are getting posted. So that is definitely a priority for us to solve that challenge. And we've been discussing how we can divvy up the tasks for doing that and make sure that our events are getting posted and getting more eyes on them, because we, like you, we value these and we want more people to see them and we want them to know about them.
Yeah, definitely. That would be fantastic. Yeah, we have, like Commissioner Ochi mentioned, Enjoy Catalog in Palo Alto, and the other cities, say Mountain View and Menlo Park, have their relevant catalog too. That might be something to consider if you have the staff or volunteer to help you. Thanks again for the great work. I'm really impressed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Shani?
Thank you, Toby. Wonderful work, as always. I'm glad that you earlier said that you can provide staff with a little bit of what's happening in nature every month. I don't know how many people watch this, probably not many, but I think it's just one more way to tell people what's happening in our parks, in our baylands, and to draw people to the seasonality of life. I think that would be wonderful. As far as Enjoy, if you can enter some of your programs into it, that would be great. But I know sometimes it's very difficult to have things scheduled so far in advance. So I totally understand if that's difficult. And I did earlier in our discussion support a shuttle to bring people up to Foothills, because for many people it's impossible to get there. And if we had a shuttle, even if it's not every day, that would help families or people who are older or disabled to get up there and enjoy the place. So I think that would be wonderful. And overall, thank you so much for all the work you do. Thanks.
Thank you. And I have to say, I have so many ideas of, oh my goodness, we want to do this, and oh, this was a great idea. So I definitely am excited about some of the potentials moving forward as well with the partnerships. One other thing I did want to mention, which I did include in this, but we are also a part of the Palo Alto Adult School. We run nature walks through the adult school as well. And that is specifically for adults, but the goal is also to get people out in nature and to have them have an experience through a docent-led, curated hike that can change every season. And so it gets them out, gives them that experience as well. So that reminded me of, oh yeah, we do that too. So.
Anne?
There we go. Thank you so much. So awfully happy to see you guys. And I have been a big fan of the environmental volunteers for a very, very, very long time. And certainly compliment you and all the staff and the team. Everything that you do is really terrific. So I have just a couple questions, and people have touched on them already. What specifically can we do for you? I'm particularly interested in what you are able to do with teens specifically, and I heard a little bit about that. And if there's any more, I'd like to hear that. And then I just want to thank you for all the work that you all did when we were opening Foothill Park, and how you all just jumped in and served on whatever committee and did whatever you needed to do. It was really terrific. So thank you for that.
Thank you. And I will say, sort of answering them in the reverse, the project with Foothills Park has been a definite blessing in our organization as well. We've really enjoyed that outreach, and we've enjoyed being able to have that be a part of the I want to say deck of cards, but that's not the right term, but the tools and the opportunities that we can provide to the public as well. Our docents have definitely enjoyed getting to know the park. They love being up there, and they enjoy the interactions with the public that they have up there. I think we've touched a little bit on how the city can support us, and even just having some of these suggestions, I think, has been helpful. Like the Lynx bus, I didn't know about that. That was great. The reminder for the Enjoy magazine, I think, was a good option. And the ideas that we can come together just to help promote the awareness of nature, I think, is also something that the city is a strong partner with. So, okay, my brain is going and synapses are firing of, okay, how can we do a monthly little quick snapshot survey at Foothills and at the Baylands, and then we can report that. And that can be something that, volunteers can do while they're out and about, or they can, we have volunteers that are there every Friday and every Saturday, and they get to see how the Baylands and how Foothills changes, and they could certainly be keeping a checklist or a note of what's out there to help promote both just the awareness of those two places, but also, to Shani's point, that mental health issue, and, the idea that we want to get people to connect with nature in a positive way. So I think the city is a great partner for ideas, for building off of each other's strength. In terms of the teen docent program that we have, so currently what we have is we have an annual program that it goes from May to May, and we recruit high school students from throughout the Bay Area. And a lot of them come from Palo Alto, a lot of them come from neighboring cities, but some of them are coming from San Jose, Sunnyvale, and farther. We have some this year that are from Fremont and some from San Bruno. And the idea is that they work with us throughout the summer, and they have a regular training protocol and enrichment opportunities to help learn about nature, learn about the Baylands, and we train them on how to interact with the public. So they're getting experience public speaking, they're getting experience leading, they're getting experience doing hands-on activities. We have all these tabletop activities that we have at our eco center that changes every month. So they're getting an opportunity to see what the world of environmental education is, what the world of public speaking, what the world of community engagement is. And we've had that program for about, and it's hard, the pandemic messes up with my math, but I think it started in 2018. And we have it started with about 10 or 15 teens, and I think we have 35 teens that we're working with this year. And the teens do a lot of different things for us. So they help staff our eco center during the weekends. They are the ambassadors for engaging people and engaging the public with the Baylands and the activities that we have. They help run some of our programs that we do at the eco center, and they help support us when we have different events. For example, I think some of them were at the May Fete parade. So some of our teens were at that event, and they were helping talk about what we do and who we are, and encouraging people to come visit us at the Baylands. I don't directly manage the teen docent program, so I don't want to overspeak in that sense of promising things that I'm not sure about, but I know something that we are always looking for is opportunities for those teens to engage in leadership opportunities, enrichment opportunities, educational opportunities. And so that's also another opportunity for the city to partner with us, is where are there places that we could take them, and enrichment experiences. We go to Gamble Gardens a lot because it's a great local space and the kids can get there. It's not too hard for them to be able to get there. And we use that as an enrichment opportunity for them to learn about plants and botany and local flora. Trying to think of another one that we do recently. They do go up to Foothills. They do a training day up at Foothills, and they get to learn the trails up there. And as I said, right now, we don't have them actively participating in the Trail Ambassador program, but we certainly would love for that to happen again. We just have to figure out some of the logistics and getting them up there. How do we transport the kids that sometimes don't have cars and their parents are working? So that is definitely some place where we could see the city partnering, as well as that transportation piece again to Foothills.
Thank you. So I have one final short question, I hope, and that is about funding and how you all go about that. I know you have to raise a lot of money, and a lot of the programs are
Yes.
free. So talk about the money a little bit, please.
Welcome to the world of nonprofits. Yes,
Yes.
Our funding comes from a lot of varied sources. So we actively seek out government grants, corporate grants, foundation grants. So we have, the Facebook, well, I don't know if it's called Facebook anymore, but Facebook Foundation used to support some of our programming that we did in East Palo Alto. We have received funding from both the Palo Alto Weekly Foundation and the, oh my gosh, I'm blanking, the Holiday Foundation. Sorry, I get those interchanged in my brain, but we have definitely received support for those. In fact, I'm participating in the Moonlight Walk and Run because it sort of feels like if we're getting funding from that one, I need to be there and represent. We also get funding from individual donors. So we have a lot of members and donors that support us as an organization. We have big fundraisers, we have annual appeals. So it's a pretty mixed bag. And I will say the world of both environmental education and nonprofits means that it's a constant process. We never can stop. We just hired a new executive director. So yay, we have someone who is at the helm, who is going to be leading the charge for our fundraising needs. But that is something that as an organization, we have to constantly be thinking about. I think one of the things that's nice about being such a well-established organization, however, is that we have partnerships with foundations, the Paprc Foundation and some of the other local foundations that they know us. So just like you were saying, you know who we are, you know what we do. We have some really good relationships with corporate giving and foundational giving that help support us. So that takes a little bit of the constant pressure off because we know we can count on them.
Yeah, thank you. So I figured you were always fundraising, right?
Always,
Yeah.
always. That's the world of the nonprofit. Yeah.
Thank you. Mandy?
Thank you for coming in person and for the wonderful presentation. Your building is my niece's absolute favorite thing to spot. My question was really about community partners that you work with, and if you wanted to highlight any. I stopped counting at 9 of the ones that you referenced because you were already doing a great job of that. But if there are any others that you wanted to highlight that you didn't, or any that you don't work with already that you would love to work with in the future.
Oh, well, the answer to the second part of the question is, oh, there are so very many. I mean, if you asked me what my long-term goal is for the organization, I would like to have at least 1 or 2 community-based partners in every city in both counties. That would be our goal, is we would like to be the go-to for community-based organizations that are looking for environmental education experiences. We have a lot of really strong partnerships right now, which as my role is programs and partnerships, it is thrilling. So we are part of the East Palo Alto Communities for Climate Change team. And so we partner with climate resilient communities. We partner with grassroots ecology. We have partnerships through our school programs with Save the Bay and Marine Science Institute and Hidden Villa and Youth Science Institute and Canopy. So we have a lot of different flavors of partnerships. So some of them are school-based and some of them are community-based. Our community programs, we've been focusing recently a lot on East Palo Alto and East Menlo Park, mostly because of the need for support and resources in those communities. So for example, we've partnered with Rise East Palo Alto, if you're familiar with them. And as I said, Friendship Circle, and I'm blanking on some of the other ones that we've worked with. Before the pandemic, we had some partnerships with St. Francis of Assisi after school program. They've unfortunately closed. They didn't survive the pandemic. But our goal, I think, would be to, as I said, be the go-to organization for any nonprofit, community-based organization or city that was just looking for somebody who can help lead environmental education and nature-based experiences. We're working on a partnership right now with the city of Santa Clara to help do some programs with their community programs. Their community center. We partner with Santa Clara Valley Audubon, and I'm sure that there's a million that I'm not saying right now. But the goal is to really get that network and get those roots really expanded and strengthened, because one of the fantastic things about being in the Bay Area and being an environmental education organization in the Bay Area is that collaboration is very much supported. We don't see it as a competition. We see it as a support for each other. And so it's been a wonderful opportunity to amplify the effect rather than step on each other's toes. So, we have different networking organizations that we're part of as well. But then there's also, as I said, organizations like Nuestra Casa. Their focus is not environmental education, but they've recognized, as we've mentioned, how important getting outside and connecting with nature is to mental health and just happiness and joy and peace. And so focusing on, we can provide that. That is the piece that we are good at. And that is the piece that we can provide to the community-based organizations that they may not have that expertise, but we do. And so looking for those kinds of partnerships. So that was a very long-winded way of saying we have a lot of partnerships, but we're always looking for more.
Thank you very much.
Thank you again, Toby, for joining us this evening. It's really a pleasure to have you. And it's great for all of us to learn about all the variety of things that the EV is doing for us. And I think this is an exchange back and forth. It's nice. I just wanted to highlight the Trail Ambassador program came out of the Foothills stakeholder group, which was a joint group between city staff, commission members, and local municipalities and environmental partners. And so that this was the need was highlighted when the park was opening to the public at large, and there was much more demand for support. And it's great the way that the EV stepped up with this program, and it's really grown into just another valuable jewel for our community. Getting back to your presentation, one of the last slides that was talking about the programs and activities, it had some numbers. I think maybe it was activities and participants. Just wondering if you could review that again.
Yeah, let me see if I can pull that back up again. Give me just a second. 'Cause of course, it crashed as soon as I got out of it.
I can ask another question in the meantime. If you-
Let me
give me a moment.
see. There we go. Computer technology is wonderful when it works. Okay. So let me share that back up.
And this presentation will be included with the minutes, or it'll be a link on the agenda.
And I can certainly provide
Yeah.
any additional information about the presentation as well.
So it was one of the last slides.
I'll add the presentation as a supplemental presentation to the agenda.
Great, thank you. Right, these numbers, so like the family nature walks, is that 17 walks and 121 participants? Is that?
Yeah,
those
so
numbers are-
that,
okay.
sorry, that I didn't explain those. So since the partnership began in 2021, we've had 295 days where we have been present at Foothills as a table or as a roving ambassador. And we keep a little clicker while we're there so that we can keep track of the members of the public that we interact with. So the 5,700 is specifically those clicks that we've received just from being at Baranda Lake and being roving around with our little bright yellow vests. And then again, since 2021, when the partnership began, we've led 17 family nature walks for 121 different participants. So that's what those numbers are. So that's cumulative since 2021.
No, that's great. I mean, a number like 5,700, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I think it's worth highlighting. For sure.
And just anecdotally, I cannot tell you how many times somebody has bumped into me in the city and I've talked about, I work in the environmental volunteers, and they're like, oh, I was at your table up at Foothills. You guys have the XYZ, or you have the exhibit. And so it's nice to be able to reinforce that partnership as well when you just are at the grocery store or something like that. So it's been a great partnership with us as well.
That's great. Could you talk a little bit more about Sprout Up, and curious how many staff are associated with that program, and just interested in learning more about.
Sure. And my caveat is that it is changing all the time. So my numbers may not be accurate anymore. Let me get back to the beginning. So Sprout Up is an organization that was an independent organization. It started at UC Santa Barbara, and it has spread to 5 different chapters in California, and there are 2 different chapters in New York City. And the idea with the Sprout Up is that it is a college-based program. So it's each university that is participating, almost like an environmental club. They have college students that are the leaders. They manage the programs. They manage the communication with the teachers. And it serves as both an environmental education opportunity for students in grades 1 and 2. So it's providing educational opportunities for the elementary school students, but it's also providing a leadership and an education experience for the college students. They are all volunteers. They have a chapter leader, they have a chapter manager, they have a program manager that are all run by the college students, and they coordinate with their team, and they coordinate with the teachers, and they go into the classrooms, and their model's a little bit different than our traditional EV programs that we do here in San Mateo and Santa Clara counties. They have an 8-week program that they do with the same class. So they see the same kids 8 times in a row, and they do it for an hour a week for 8 weeks. And again, the idea is that it's both providing a science curriculum and a hands-on experience for the elementary students, but it's providing the college students an opportunity to discover if they even like the world of environmental education. Do they like working with kids? Do they want to do this for the future? So we have 2 full-time staff members who are part of the Sprout Up team. We have the national director of Sprout Up, and she is based here in the Bay Area. And then we have a chapter director who is based in New York. And so the time difference gets a little bit funny sometimes with the meetings, but both of them then have connections with the individual chapter leaders at the different universities that they're based out of. So I know that they are at New York. They have 2 chapters in New York. They are UC Santa Barbara in California, UC Santa Cruz. Santa Clara University is a new one that they just got started a year or 2 ago. They are just launching a Stanford University chapter, and they have one at UC Davis, I believe, and one at San Luis Obispo as well. So their programs, again, are a little bit different in structure than the EV traditional programs, and they are strictly school-based, so they don't have the community component to it that we do, but they are serving a different need and helping the college students gain some experience and hopefully launch them into the field of environmental education is ultimately the goal. And one of the things that's been delightful for us is we've been integrating the 2 halves of these organizations. As we've had interns that have started out as Sprout Up volunteers, and then they come and do an internship with us, and then, potentially look for full-time positions. And we've had the flip side. You were asking us about our teen docent program. So we just had a teen docent that graduated from our program. She started school at UC San Diego and has decided to start a Sprout Up chapter at her school. So she's taking that experience that she had as a teen docent and helping that to launch a new chapter with the Sprout Up program. So,
can I ask one more question? Just, the same topic. So it's quite an interesting, inspiring story you just told of the teen docent become a new founder of a new chapter. So how does that work? It really depends on individual who have been volunteered with you, then start a new chapter.
Not necessarily. So a lot of the chapters were started independently. It basically is, there is 1 or 2 individuals that are passionate about environmental education. They would like to gain experience. And then the Sprout Up National Director has effectively a chapter packet that she can provide to them that talks about, here's how many people you're going to need, and here's the curriculum that you're going to work with, and here's the training. So they will provide the training virtually, obviously, for the chapter representatives at the school that are interested. One of the things that we're working on is how do we reach new schools and how do we reach new college students that could potentially expand the reach of this organization. And that's one of the projects that the Sprout Up National Director is working on, is trying to identify, do we go through a professor? Do we go through a club? Do we go through a local Audubon chapter? What is it that is going to be helpful for getting into the university? And then once it gets launched, it can get started with as little as 5 or 6 people. So each program that runs in a classroom needs 5 educators. But once they have that core group of 5 or 6 volunteers and college students that are willing to spend the time, that are willing to do the training, it is sort of a self-sustaining, propagating model, because then they talk about it and they get additional students that are interested in it. The challenge with a model like that, of course, is that college students are inherently transient, right? They graduate, they move away. And so one of the challenges with that is just that self-sustaining model of how do we get new Sprout Up members each year. Some of the chapters do that really well, and they seem to have an ecosystem that just promotes that growth. UC Santa Barbara is one that just has, it has sprouted. It has really blossomed and bloomed, and there's, I think, 30 or 40 people that are part of the Sprout Up chapter there. Some of them are small. Some of them only have a handful of people. And as I said, we have the teen docent that's heading down, or is at UC San Diego, and her goal is to get the chapter started. So she's just at the very beginning, but she's already talked to 4 or 5 people that are interested in environmental science, interested in education. They become a club on the campus, and then they can get some resources through their universities as well.
Yeah, my daughter happened to switch to environment science this year, and I know a lot of her high school students come from this Bay Area, actually switched, Z generation really concerned about climate change. So I'm just wondering how to help you in terms of gather all those former, Palo Alto students who are now in college. Maybe can come to your center because they all been there and then do a class understanding how that works.
Yeah, I think that would be amazing is if we had that as a resource that we could have a pipeline for, you graduate from Pali or from Gunn and you can come.
Yeah, or even the Bay Area high schools.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
So
No, I
thank
agree.
you.
I think that's a great resource.
That's great. Thank you. A couple more quick questions or ideas. Have you ever done any kind of riparian programs aimed at the elementary school kids, for example, at Bull Park or Shoot Park?
We haven't done specifically at either of those locations. Our Palo Alto locations have been in recent years limited to the Palo Alto Baylands. And as I said, we're just branching out into Foothills now that that's a resource for us. Prior to my time, I know we used to go up to Jasper Ridge Biological Preserve and do some riparian habitat field trips up there. There were some challenges associated with that, so that didn't end up working out. We have locations at Stevens Creek County Park, which has a riparian component to it as well. We also go up to Windy Hill Open Space Preserve and Huddart Park, which unfortunately also has some challenges right now. But we don't have specifically a riparian program. We call it our Foothills program, and it encompasses both riparian habitat, but also grassland and oak woodlands and things like that. So we have not specifically looked at those locations, but those would certainly be places that I know well, and they're lovely locations. So
Just curious. And you mentioned that having access to Foothills Nature Preserve and the Baylands was helping with your programs. Is something changed? Is it new? Has your access to changed? Or have things gotten better or worse? How can we help? What should we be aware of?
Yeah, I don't know if I can say that Baylands hasn't necessarily changed. One of the things that we noticed, though, is during the pandemic, I think more people became aware that the Baylands existed because they were desperately looking for places to just do something, to get outside. So I do think that there has been an increased interest in exploring the Baylands. I think one of the challenges that the flip side of that is we are facing we were calling this the California Commitment Clause, where people are very busy and they sign up for things, but if something better comes along or they don't feel like doing it that day, they tend to not show up. So there's this balancing act of people want to get into the Baylands, they want to have an experience, but lives are busy and people's structure of their schedules is just very different. Foothills is the new piece for us, that is a resource that we've been able to tap into a little bit. I think there's more that we can tap into. There's more resources that I think we could take advantage of at Foothills that we haven't had the bandwidth yet to do that, but that is definitely an area that we would love to explore, of utilizing that more, having more events, or not events, programs up there. We've talked about, could we develop a school program that takes place at Foothills? I think the limiting factor for us is just, you don't just snap your fingers and you have a program. In order for us to do it in a way that we feel is quality, it takes some time for us to develop. And that's something that our bandwidth has been a little bit limited, but it is something that's on the radar. Definitely is something that we want to follow through with.
Thank you. Want to ask Vice Mayor Stone if he has any questions or comments?
I don't. Thank you, Chair.
Sure. And any other commissioners with follow-up questions or comments? Darren?
Just to thank Toby so much and the environmental volunteers. We're big fans. They're great partners. We're really fortunate to have partnered with them for so many years. When I started with the city, there was already a very long-standing partnership, and they would staff the nature center at the Baylands for many, many years, or at least help staff it. So we love the EVs. We're really grateful for them. Thanks so much,
Thank
Toby.
you. Thank you.
But thanks again so much for joining us and for everything the organization does to help enrich our community.
And thank you for having us. It was a pleasure to speak with you tonight.
Thank you. Next. That's a big applause from here. Since we're not supposed to do that. Next up is the dog park update. And if there are any members of the public who would like to speak to this item, you'll have an opportunity after the presentation and before the commissioners speak. So you can go ahead and raise your hands, via Zoom, or complete a speaker card if you're in person this evening.
Thank you, Chair. Darren Anderson again with Community Services Department. This presentation will provide you with an update on dog parks. We'll highlight the master plan, Parks Master Plan, that talks about dog parks and the policy and program. We'll discuss our existing dog parks we have in process, the off-leash pilot program that we've looked at in the past, and we'll discuss some locations that dog park liaisons, staff, and some of our stakeholders have been exploring in North Palo Alto more recently. So the 2017 Parks, Trails, Natural Open Space, Recreational Master Plan, or Parks Master Plan, discussed dog parks and created a policy and program to pursue adding dedicated fenced dog parks in multiple neighborhoods equitably distributed between North and South Palo Alto. The plan had a program for dog parks that stated that we'll have at least 6 dedicated fenced dog parks and offered some potential locations. We've got 4 existing dog parks, and you can see the size. 3 of them are located in South Palo Alto, and that's the Greer, Hoover, and Mitchell. And the more recent development is Piers Dog Park, which we opened in 2018, and that's in North Palo Alto and our largest at 0.84 acres. I see I made a mistake on this slide. Please forgive me. I wanted to start by explaining what I mean by an off-leash program. An off-leash program is an unfenced section of a park that would be allocated and treated like a dog park for a limited number of hours during a day. And the pilot aspect is we'd assign a certain amount of time, let's say 6 months, I think, is the time we had looked at in the past to say, we're going to evaluate how it works. Is it working well for other park users, our dog visitors, and the park in general, come back to the commission and discuss whether to extend it, to make it permanent, or perhaps not continue it. And so in December of 2020, the PRC had discussed an off-leash pilot program for Ramos Park. And there was feedback from the community and from commissioners that had gone both ways, in favor of the idea and pointing out some serious concerns. Some of those concerns were the potential for conflicts with field users, dog waste, dog attacks on other humans and other dogs, people not paying attention to their pets, and lack of enforcement. That combined with some feedback we got from the community who wrote in significant numbers to say we're really concerned with this idea. Ultimately, we didn't pursue the off-leash program. We've got some dog parks in process. There's 2 right now, and one's at Mitchell. This is one that the commission looked at not too long ago. We talked about expanding the existing dog park and adding a new small dog park to this site. That will go out to bid this fall and be completed in early 2024 is the plan. And then the other dog park in process is the Bulware Park. This is part of a bigger renovation project that started last month and will be completed in the fall of 2024. So the dog park liaisons, a few key stakeholders that we've been working with, and staff have been looking for locations in North Palo Alto that we thought were tenable and had potential. Hopkins Park near the Halewell site. I'll show you some photos in just a minute. Johnson Park, El Camino Park, and Rinconada Park more recently are some of those that we've been considering. This is the area at Hopkins Park. And this site was recommended by some stakeholders that we've been working with. It's about 0.35 acres. It's already fenced on 3 sides. There's already a water fountain you can see in the photo, and there's some seating available as well. It's in an underserved area of North Palo Alto. It's shaded. There were a lot of benefits to this site that we thought had some potential. But as we looked further into it, one of the key challenges of this site, so this is that back fence of that park, and you can see the proximity to the adjacent creek. In some areas, it's 5 feet, in some areas more like 15 from the distance. And we knew that was going to be a potential issue. And the liaisons and staff reached out to Commissioner Kleinhaus, thank you again, just to ask for her feedback on what kind of environmental impacts we would have if we were to put a dog park so close to the creek. And she said, I do think there would be some impacts. I think a setback, although the city's setback of 5 feet minimum from the edge of creek is what's on our rules for Palo Alto through our planning department. Best practices, Commissioner Kleinhaus has explained, is probably more like 100, if I've got that right. And please jump in and correct me if I misunderstood.
It depends on which creek and what kind of location. Usually we look at the minimum of 100 feet and up to 300.
Thanks, Commissioner Kleinhaus. So that is one we had looked at. We didn't move too much further. We thought we might be at odds with the environmental community on pitching this one and started looking at other options, including Johnson Park. This was another one that was suggested by the stakeholders. It's a fairly small park at just a hair over 2 acres. And you've got residents on pretty close proximity, which is another challenge for that location. El Camino Park, this is an area that we had looked at many years ago when we were developing the park in 2015 as a potential dog park. And at the time, the commission said, we think this might be one of the last bits of passive grass in the park, and maybe it should stay that way. So that was part of the reason why this part was not developed as a dog park. We had looked at another spot in the park. It's actually on the other side of the street on Palo Alto Ave. Ultimately, that was Stanford's land, and they said, no, we have other plans for that. You can't put a dog park there. We looked at the other side, the southern portion of El Camino Park, closer to Red Cross Building. We're also told, no, there's potential plans for transportation project there that would make that untenable. And so staff came back to this spot as something we could consider. It's got the advantages of not being too close to neighboring homes. At the same time, it's got the disadvantage of being so far from those homes, where it's not an easy walk from the neighborhood, which is why some of our stakeholders said, we don't really think this is a great spot for a dog park. And more recently, we haven't had a chance to talk this through with the key stakeholders we've been working with recently, but the dog park liaisons and staff looked at Rinconada Park, which is in the north and does have a section of grass here that you can see outlined that is fairly underutilized, and it's not too close to residents. So we thought that may have potential, but a lot more explanation is needed. I want to talk a little bit about the interest in a dog park for the Barron Neighborhood Association or group. They had reached out to the commission and suggested that a dog park would be really essential and helpful in the neighborhood. And they pitched these 3 areas as potential sites. And as noted in the staff report, the liaisons had reached out to them to say, this is great. We're really glad you're interested in this. Right now, we're focused on North Palo Alto because only one of our 4 dog parks is located there, and we're trying to find a spot there. But we will certainly keep your ideas in mind as we continue to look at locations. But the 3 they pitched were Bull Park, Briones, and Strawberry Hill. Strawberry Hill is not Palo Alto property. It actually belongs to the school district. Some of the challenges we've been running into is in finding a suitable location for a dog park, including finding a space that's large enough that doesn't displace other existing recreational use and doesn't conflict with wildlife or sensitive habitats, and ultimately isn't too close to creeks or neighboring homes. And it's one of those things that sometimes you look at a spot like El Camino and we sort of ruled that out for other reasons. And sometimes you got to come back and look at it again. And I think that's the task of the liaisons and staff and our stakeholders to keep reevaluating, keep looking, and not give up on trying to find another spot. Our next steps are really focusing on these two upcoming projects that are still need to go out to bid. So the Mitchell Dog Park, as I mentioned, that we're preparing the bid package and that'll go out this fall and be completed in early 2024. And then the Bulware Park project is already started and the dog park will be a part of that. And we can look forward to that being completed in the fall next year. And lastly, that the dog park liaisons, our stakeholders and staff will continue to analyze potential locations for a dog park in particular in the north. And I just want to thank the dog park liaisons. Thank you so much for all your help and brainstorming and problem solving, communicating with our stakeholders and trying to help this be a successful next step in finding a spot. That concludes this presentation.
Thank you, Darren. Thank you for the update and report. Thank you to the liaisons to the dog parks, Vice Chair and Commissioner Cribbs. And I'll also just highlight that the dog parks are something that's really been grown out of the Parks and Rec Commission. Initially, some of our predecessors did a lot of early heavy lifting to get the dog park program off the ground, working with the community and working with staff. But it was really a lot of the specific initiative of the commission, and it's important that we carry on their work and further the service to our canine friends and our community overall. Do any commissioners have any clarifying questions? Do any of the other liaison want to make add any other information before we hear from the public? And again, if would like to speak to this item, please raise your hand or fill out a speaker card. We'll go.
I would just say that there are an awful lot of people in Palo Alto and in the staff and at the commission for a long time who have been working hard on this project to move it forward. I think it's really great that Darren has been able to put together this program and the report today, and looking forward to hearing from the community, but also from the commissioners, because coming out of COVID, I think everybody, and even during COVID, I think people realized how important it was to have dog parks. And I know we'd like to figure out how to put them someplace that makes everybody happy. And so we will continue that, but everybody needs to have patience as well. So that's what I would like to say right at the moment.
Just again, a big thank you to staff and the stakeholders, dog park representatives that we've worked with for years on this, trying to find suitable locations. It's not easy. We're short on land as a resource in Palo Alto for new uses, and just trying to be mindful that it is the same group of staff that would be doing an off-leash pilot project that is implementing these additions to the Mitchell Park Dog Park. They are looking at new options. It's all the same people in these Zoom meetings with us, trying to juggle all of these different projects, and we're just one liaison group. And so just trying to be mindful of that, and really recognizing that even to analyze these as potential options takes a lot of coordination with other departments. And so I just want to thank staff for all of their work thus far, and we'll keep moving forward.
Yeah, thank you again to staff, and it is inherently an effort with a lot of starts and stops, and a lot of perseverance has been required in the past to make dog parks happen, and that will continue to be the way as we move forward in the future. Let's hear from the.
I have a question.
Clarifying question, sure.
Just a question. Have the efforts to do an off-leash pilot somewhere in a park no longer being pursued?
No, I think it's still something we need to consider, especially as we struggle to find a spot for a fenced dog park. So I know the liaisons are interested in discussing that. They may have more thoughts on it, but right now the focus has been the fenced dog park. That's what we've been looking for. But I think it's still a tool we probably need to explore.
It's been very successful in other cities, so I think we should explore it, but I'll get back to you.
That's kind of getting beyond clarifying question. Let's hear from the public, please.
Yeah, I'm just echoing other commissioner thoughts about the thoroughness of your work on this. It's a huge amount of undertake. And I just sent the staff a paper published September 2022 by the National Library of Medicine, analysis of US West, especially benefits and conflicts of a systematic review of dog park design and management.
Excuse me, Bing, we're going to, before the commissioners speak, we're going to hear from the public.
Okay.
This is just an opportunity for clarifying questions.
Okay.
Let's go ahead. Jawad?
Chair, we have one in-person speaker along with 3 hands raised at the moment. Our first speaker is Christian. Christian, you have 3 minutes. I'll wait for your screen to come up before starting the time. Darren, would you mind stop sharing? Oh, it's me. Hold on. Go ahead.
There we go. So I am here, the reason I'm here is to talk about the last section or last paragraph of the report, which talks about the Barron Park area. Real quick background on myself. My name is Christian Kaler. I live at 3716 Laguna Avenue, which is in Barron Park. And I've lived there for over 30 years. And I know the parks and schools well. My 2 kids went to Barron Park School, what formerly was Terman and Gunn High School, and obviously used the parks locally. Our family has been dog owners for 17 years. And my wife and I every day walk our dog around Strawberry Hill and through Bull Park. So my biggest comment, and I think a dog park in the area would be great. However, I have to say that I think Bull Park is a really bad idea. As I said, I've been in the area for 30 years. And around 15 years ago, the city of Palo Alto was looking into making Bull Park a dog park. I don't know how many of you have been working on this stuff for 15 years, but so I wanted to just remind the folks about, if you look at the area that's trees, that's the creek, that's Matadero Creek. And so if you try to do an off-leash area, the dogs go into the creek, and it's not a good barrier because the property lines are actually the center of the creek. So now you have the dogs across in private property, and they disturb the cranes and the mallards and the wildlife that are in the creek. So that's the problem. And also the width of the park at that wide spot in the middle is about 110 feet of the developed portion of it. And so it's very narrow. And if you're trying to do a 1/4 acre, let's say 100 by 100 or whatever your dimensions are, there's really very little room there. And so if I switch this view, this is the view from the parking area where you can see if you did have a fenced area, it would have a significant impact to your view down the park, which is one of the best parts about that park. So I think the Briones Park would be an excellent choice because it's surrounded on 3 sides by streets, and then it has a fence on the other side. And there are certain areas that have very light use. This area that that's on the screen, if you go there every day, there are people using that park all throughout that area because there isn't a lot of area to use. And if you look at the satellite view, you'll see there's quite a bit that's undeveloped, and that's Barron Park. That's why we don't have sidewalks. That's why when I had pushed the stroller of my kids in it, I was fighting the street, but I was okay with that because that's part of our rural neighborhood, and so that's why we wouldn't want the undeveloped portions developed. And with that concludes it. So that's just my feedback on the Barron Park area. I think it'd be great. Strawberry Hill would be very interesting because there's nothing developed there, but it does have that complication of the school district. Thank you. I'll stop sharing.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Carol. Carol, you have 3 minutes.
I had sent in a PowerPoint presentation, or am I allowed to share screen?
I can share screen for you. Please let me know when to switch slides. Give me 1 second to bring that up.
Okay, great. Thank you. Hi, my name is Carol, and I'm part of a very vibrant dog community. We don't have a park yet. And I wanted to highlight our grassroots effort and hopefully emphasize on the positive impact that a dog park could have on our community, because we are already a very cohesive unit, and there are a lot of positive impacts. So this is the Barron Park Dog Community. Next slide, please. And of course, I am preaching to the choir when I say that our dog park community is a community haven where a lot of our members are from young ages to senior citizens. We care for each other, we look out for each other, we catch up on each other, and we look out for each other's kids, dogs, and give advice. I mean, it's really a very sharing community. Our dogs are socialized. We pay attention to our dogs. We are very safe, and I wanted to highlight the fact that Barron Park has a lot of dog owners, and a dog park would meet a growing need, a community service that we already desperately need. Next slide, please. So we started this grassroots efforts with a petition. And when we started out and presented this couple months ago, this was, very early, but it has grown to 695 signatures with lots of views, and the responses are all really very positive. There's a lot of support, as you guys know, for dog parks, and particularly in our neighborhood. Next slide, please. And more recently, after our leadership for this dog park, I'd like to highlight Samir Tumar and John King, as well as myself, as well as all of our efforts together. We talked with Anne and Amanda, and they wanted some community feedback to see which sites were the best sites that is preferred by the community, so they can direct their efforts. So we have some survey results from these flyers. Next slide, please. And the current number one choice, based on 48 responses, and this is just out for roughly 2 weeks, so there was a lot of interest and a lot of response, was first choice was Strawberry Hill, and the second choice was Cornelius Bowl Park. And just on a side note on the Cornelius Bowl Park, when we did look at those areas, we didn't want to interrupt the view. We were mostly looking at the areas that were undeveloped, and the fencing would not involve disrupting the stream. Next slide, please.
Excuse me, Carol, your 3 minutes are up, so I'm going to ask you to wrap up.
Okay, well, that was the most important information. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And thank you for sending in your presentation beforehand as well.
Our next speaker is Samir. Samir, you have been unmuted and you have 3 minutes.
Thanks very much, Commissioners. I appreciate the time and opportunity to speak with you. First thing I'd like to do is thank Commissioners Cribbs and Brown. They've been wonderful liaisons and have been very helpful to our group in discussing ideas and options. And I just really commend the whole commission and the city for the interest and dedication to making this these needed facilities a reality. I think someone touched on it before. During the course of the pandemic, we saw skyrocketing numbers of dogs. Ownership really has grown considerably. And so the demand and the desire has increased. What's also increased in the short run are conflicts. So the dogs go somewhere. There are some unfortunate situations where people are not pleased about the dogs being in certain locations. And it's creating disharmony, which is really the last thing in the world that we want to see. And so, I think The process that you're going through is, as Commissioner Cribb said, long time. And so it's going to take longer. We get that. So I think, one of the things we'd really like to go back and explore more is this idea of off-leash parks, but maybe with a twist. Because I think some of the concerns I heard voiced about the off-leash parks sounded as if, the pilots would be also unfenced. And, is there an opportunity for temporary fencing, run a pilot where you take a space, you put up temporary fencing, maybe it's for 6 months or a period of time, to really understand and study that area in real time and see how a particular area works instead of making guesses on how to do that. And I think, something like a pop-up or temporary pilot program could be implemented very, very quickly. I don't think, I'm in the real estate development business. We put up temporary fencing all the time. It's inexpensive, it's easy to do, and it's not a big problem. So, I'd love to have more conversations about how we can look at these temporary or pop-up off-leash areas that are fenced, but do it in a way that kind of builds a bridge between where we are now, which is a big demand and some conflict, to where I think we all want to be, which is to have adequate dog parks really throughout the entire city of Palo Alto. And so, and I do know that the members of the Barron Park group would certainly be willing to contribute as much as needed in terms of time and effort and even resources to make that happen. So appreciate the opportunity and look forward to further discussions.
Thank you. And we're going to cut off public speakers raising their hand after the next speaker finishes.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Winter. Winter, you've been unmuted and you have 3 minutes to speak.
Hi, thank you folks for volunteering to be on the PRC. I really appreciate it. I'm sure everybody does. I have just a few points. It has to be remembered, I'm going to talk about Bowl Park mainly. I'm very opposed to a dog park being at Bowl Park, not because I have anything against dogs. I really like dogs, but it's not a good place for a dog park. I'd like to associate myself with what Christian Kalar said. Christian is on our Barron Park Association board, though he was, I believe, speaking for himself tonight. I just attended the Barron Park Association meeting tonight, right before I hopped on this meeting, and they discussed dog parks. And at this point, they're not taking any position about this whatsoever. The group, just to make a clarification, so the group that is asking for a dog park are some of my neighbors here. They're not the Barron Park Association board at all. Then it is critical that you remember in terms of Bowl Park with dogs is that we have 3 donkeys, the famous Barron Park donkeys. Their paddock where they live is basically adjacent to Bowl Park. It's at the back part of Bowl Park. And the donkeys fully participate in our neighborhood. So we have 2 ice cream socials this year. We're having a movie night. We're having a Halloween thing. We had the May Fete with a big maypole. All of these occasions that we do in our neighborhood, the donkeys are there with us in the park. The donkeys come to the park, and every Sunday morning at around 11 o'clock, I think it is, the donkeys come in the park, and kids from all over Palo Alto come and pet the donkeys and see the donkeys and all of this. So they're very much associated with Bowl Park. In fact, the Bowl family own the original donkeys. So it's a real tradition. Donkeys and dogs do not mix. An off-leash dog or a dog that gets away from somebody, dogs have frightened the donkeys very much in their paddock and have attacked them and ripped one of their stomachs open, and it was really serious and had to get emergency and all of that. Please keep that in mind. As to the survey, That survey, I don't believe ever actually came to our neighborhood email list that we have in Barron Park, a very vigorous list that the board keeps. So I think the people signing the petition are from anywhere. I mean, not necessarily even in Palo Alto. So I don't think that that could really be looked at. And I think that that's my main remarks. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Tammy. Tammy, you've been unmuted and you have 3 minutes to speak. Tammy, you've been unmuted and you have 3 minutes to speak.
And could you please let us know your last name, Tammy?
Hello, my last name is Kusi. Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you. Can you please spell your last name?
It's C-U, S as in Sierra, I.
Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate everything, all the comments that have been said, pros and cons. The need is dire. It has been dire for many years. And then the pandemic just really jacked it up immensely. And as a pet caregiver, I run into many people who absolutely love the dogs and approach me and want to are shy and want to say hi but don't know how to approach them. So I do it slowly, and it's wonderful to see kids and adults be able to have that interaction. Regarding the donkeys, my dogs, we walk past a donkey pen, and I sit and I have them, look at the donkeys and observe them, and the donkeys observe us, and then we go on our way. And it's building a relationship, as it is building with relationship with people and the kids and the community. Um, it's very disheartening when I come across people who are yelling at me and um, don't want us to be us, meaning our dog people, our dogs, our community, to be in a vicinity of a playground. Um, um, or a school ground. And I like, I really, really like the out of the box thinking of Samir, of a pop up. And I think that's something that we should really look into in the interim while we are looking into building other dog parks and renovating dog parks. Because again, the need is dire. And I want to continue the ability to build a community with the kids who have interacted with us and who have really grown immensely to really adore and respect the animals. And it has enriched their lives. And the parents have told me thank you. And so not everybody hates us. They may just not understand us. And if they just approach us nicely, we're more than welcome to share the dogs and teach them how to interact. So that is my plea, the plea for our group in the Barron Park area, but also everywhere in Palo Alto. I live in Midtown, and the dog park at Greer Park, it's fenced, but it's a very sad dog park. There's no grass, there's no trees. All the trees were cut recently, and so please let's look into upgrading those as well, and not let the dog parks that we currently have go left behind. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Herman. Herman, you have 3 minutes to speak.
There we go. My name is Herman Gier. I live along Ball Park. I've lived in Barron Park for the past 30 years. I've had a dog in the last 6 years and have become a member of a really remarkable community. What has been particularly interesting around this dog park idea is that it's actually not a dog park. just a dog park. It's kind of a human gathering point. It's a community center. It's something really, really interesting that happens when people come together on a regular basis. And it's a rare thing in this day and age. And I found it to be really remarkable, the kind of caretaking that happens between this community of dog owners when they get together and let their dogs play with each other and connect. And it reminds me of I grew up in Switzerland, and it reminds me of sort of these regular gathering places that communities typically have, and that we're losing, that we don't have enough of. And so from my perspective, there's something really very special about creating that kind of gathering point. Now, to speak to Ballpark in particular, I live right along Ballpark, and I know the donkeys very well. There's this, they've been around as long as we've been here, and I can easily imagine a dog park within the constraints of Ballpark that could work out really well, could work in harmony with all the other creatures and all the other things that are present in this park, the kids that are playing. That's what community is about. That's what we're looking for. And I think a dog park towards the back end of Ballpark would be absolutely no problem. It would work really well. It could live in harmony with all the other features of this remarkable, beautiful natural park. So to me, as a neighbor of Ballpark, it's not a problem. It is something that is hugely attractive, and I think could live in perfect harmony with everything else, with all the sort of wonderful things that make Ballpark what it is. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Our final speaker is John. John, you've been unmuted and you have 3 minutes to speak.
Yes, thank you, and good evening, commissioners. Thanks for all of your hard work and late nights. I am coming to you with two hats on. My first hat is as a dog owner here in Barron Park, and with having my dog, with Tammy and her dogs and the other dog community people. We're just, we're looking for a home. And that, having just 3 dog parks in the city just seems, quite woefully inadequate. Happy about the Bulware Park option that'll be available at the end of next year. That's awesome. But yes, with the need is dire, and that we need to have solutions, and we need to have them sooner than I think things happen. So I would say that one of the things that, if we can push things forward in a faster way and identify solutions wherever they might be, if Bull Park ends up being a solution, I know Parks and Rec looks very diligently at all these options and does a terrific job of making sure that community is involved and that, it's the right place and choice for the place to be. So I appreciate all the hard work, and that, we are hoping for, sooner solutions. I like the idea of a pop-up park, just where we can, get the dogs together, play, and without having it be a, official dog park. That being said, my other hat, I just got finished with the Barron Park Association board meeting. I'm the president of the board, and as mentioned by Winter, the Barron Park Association wants to be as an interested party. We'd like to be a stakeholder. We want to be helpful as a community. We have lots of resources. We have email lists. We have ways to gather, survey information. We have the ability to help in that regard, and we would definitely offer that. We do not and would not at this time have any kind of a policy that we would, bring forth from a board level. We'd like to have our own community's input, but we do want to be a stakeholder in the conversation, and that's what we talked about tonight at the Barron Park Association meeting. I read the portion where of the agenda where it mentioned Barron Park specifically, and we think that's absolutely terrific that we're being somewhat highlighted on on a paragraph. And we would be here to help in any way we can. And we look forward to some solution here in our neighborhood. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. And thank you to all of the members of the public who spoke. The community input is very important. It's great to hear impassioned views. We appreciate taking the time and also the preparation that's gone into presenting to us this evening. So thank you. At this point, I'd like to turn things over to the dog park liaisons for their comments. And maybe guide us further if you'd like.
Sure. I'll just get started and jump in. I think part of why we're here tonight is we want to clarify community expectations as it relates to dog parks in Palo Alto and the progress that's been going on behind the scenes largely. And obviously seeking community input on the direction that we have been taking and the full commission on what options we've been considering, where we're sort of planning on going. Up until now, we've really been focusing on North Palo Alto because it is so underserved in terms of fenced dog parks, with only one, and that being the most recent one in North Palo Alto. The sort of elephant in the room or dog in the room is that the properties that are being used as dog parks right now are the elementary schools, and those are fenced areas. And so in order to address that as a problem, really focusing on looking at fenced dog parks as an option. I think we can consider off-leash parks, dog park options as a tool, but we haven't exhausted all our options for identifying a fenced dog park in Palo Alto. Darren went over a few of them today of the options that we're considering right now. And his PowerPoint was lovely, and he went over many of the historical sites that we have considered in North Palo Alto. That wasn't even all of them. If he went through every single one that we really considered, he'd probably still be presenting, because we have really combed that whole side of Palo Alto looking for various options. I would not want staff to stray away from focusing on that need and bifurcate staff's time by trying to do an off-leash pilot program at the same time. This is very staff intensive. It is very time intensive in working with the different departments. And I think trying to do both of those at the same time, in addition to implementing the already agreed upon projects in Mitchell Park and in Bulwer Park, is unrealistic. And I really think that having staff focused on individual projects is the best path forward, and what I would recommend, and staying course on the North Palo Alto initiative. For Barron Park, we hear you loud and clear. I appreciate the dedication, and I have personally gone out to look at sites and met with stakeholders in that group multiple times, trying to be very responsive to every email, phone call that I get. And I think that that could be a future priority after we address the North Palo Alto need. But I don't think that it's fair to jump ahead of that. I don't think the Barron Park group would appreciate another neighborhood coming out and now saying that they wanted to sort of jump the line in terms of process. So my advice to that group is to try and form a consensus in terms of location. I think there was a survey shown tonight, but if you guys can meet together and sort of come up with final location or locations to run by staff or by us, we're happy to continue meeting with you to discuss those and identify some roadblocks that we've run into in North Palo Alto and share those lessons learned as we continue to move forward. And so I'll make that offer that we're willing to continue to work with you, and I'm volunteering Commissioner Cribbs without her asking her, but I'm just assuming that's okay. And then I do think also sort of in the same vein of the not wanting to spread staff too thin on the temporary fencing, I think that that's a little bit risky. My dog's 100 pounds. He would knock that over in a second, any sort of temporary fencing. And I think it also does mess with community expectations. Once you have a fence up, the community may expect that fence is going to be permanent, and that could either anger or residents if they don't like the location, or it could make people think that it's going to be permanent and then it goes away. It's very hard to undo that effort. So again, just in the effort of trying to use our resources wisely, knowing how much time and effort that these projects take, I'd recommend staying course, focusing on the North Palo Alto options that Darren presented today and working with that stakeholder group, and then moving forward to explore future options involving potentially an off-leash pilot program or anything proposed by the Barron Park group in the future. Do you have anything to add, Commissioner Krebs?
Only to say that I think that that was very, very well said. And I do think that it's important to focus on North Palo Alto. They've been waiting for a long time. Before you became the only liaison, I was with a group of people a long time ago around Piers Park when we opened that and all of that. And so we've all been through this, and it's taking a long time, and I appreciate everybody's patience and also their impatience. So I'm going back to what I think that we should do right now, and that is focus on North Palo Alto. I'm pretty intrigued with the two locations that were mentioned this evening, Darren, by the soccer field and also the Rinconada Park. I think that that's a pretty exciting one. So I like that. I'm also pretty anxious to make sure that we can help as commissioners to move along whatever bidding process that you have to go through to improve the current parks, because I think certainly Greer Park, which is in my neighborhood, has a way to go in terms of being a nice dog park. I applaud the Barron Park community for coming together, and I'm glad to see that Barron Park Association wants to be part of the stakeholder group. And I'm happy, as you are, to meet with them whenever and see if we can figure out what's going on for them. I think Strawberry Hill is an interesting concept. So more on that later, but thank you very much. And I just want to add my thanks to the community who called in. Certainly thanks to the staff, because whenever we have one of these meetings, we have the whole force. And we're really respectful. And also we want to make sure that we can do what we take on. So thank you.
Well, thank you to our liaisons. I know it's been a lot of work on a long-term basis, and thank you for the comprehensive overview and guidance you've offered. Before we go to the rest of the commission, maybe Darren, you could speak to the staff resources question, considering Vice Chair Brown's comments and Commissioner Cribb's support in terms of general recommendation to taking on an additional dog park project beyond the current work at Mitchell Park, at Bulwer, and in search of North Palo Alto.
Yeah, I agree with Vice Chair Brown's assessment that in addition to that, we would be stretched very thin. And what it ultimately does is compromises the work on those aforementioned projects. We just don't do them as efficiently or as well when we're dividing our attention amongst too many different things. And to her point, the same group that's staff that are working on these projects are working on Foothills, working on Arrastadero, working on all the other projects we've got. So it's a finite group. That, and we're also reliant on other members of the Palo Alto team, like our Public Works Engineering team. And they're also stretched very thin with 4 different park restroom projects all going on at the same time, other large capital projects like the Bulwer Park that we mentioned. So it would be a challenge.
Thank you. Appreciate that input. Let's go to other commissioners with comments and questions. Bing?
Yeah, I'm just really impressed by the staff and the commissioner's thorough work. I'm not a dog park expert, although I'm living downtown North, of course, and and hopefully our community can be served. And yeah, I did share earlier with the staff of a report by the National Medicine, which also gives the National Library of Medicine gives the pros and cons how to identify the dog park and design management. I hope that just serve as resources for you. Thanks for the great work and with so much on your plate and the efforts you made.
Commissioner Kleinhaus.
Thank you. Thank you, staff and other commissioners for all the work, and I thank the people who came to speak tonight. We have 2 dogs, and I really appreciate the community members that came to speak about how important the dogs are to create community in a neighborhood. People get together, they learn the name of the dog, then they learn the name of the owner and the children and the family, and friendships are built on that. So it's really critically important. On the other side of it is what I mentioned before. I'm an ecologist, and to me, the riparian corridors are sacred. We really need to keep development, including dog parks, away from the riparian corridors, and that to me means that ballpark is not a good place for because it's so narrow, and the creek delineates it. There's also a lot of aesthetics involved in parsing a park to pieces, and each piece belongs to a certain group that likes it, but the whole wholesomeness, the natural flow of the park is impeded when you do that. And it's very attractive to people to come to those areas that still have some nature in them, like ballpark. Obviously, it's much more pleasant to people to go there than to a place where there is not so much nature and comfort. But that's exactly what we don't want. What we need to do is to make the other parks better instead of bringing the activities into the ones that are so special, like this gem, which is ballpark. So to me, the riparian corridors, whether it's San Francisco Creek or Matadero Creek, should not be candidates for this. And also those are the places that tend to create a lot of controversy in the community, where people who love nature and people who love dogs and the people who love both have a lot of, there's a lot of contention in all of that. So I would advise to stay away from the San Francisco and Matadero Creek. I do want to say that the words underutilized and undeveloped when you come to a park are somewhat disturbing to me, because somebody uses those. And many years ago, I lived in Davis in a community called Village Homes. In the center of Village Homes, near the community center, they had a large area that was, there was nothing there. They allowed whatever grew there to grow there, and they allowed anything that people wanted to do to happen in that location. It was the most amazingly used place. All the youth were attracted there. People would gather sticks and build teepees, and there was all this art going on. It was spontaneous. It was amazingly interesting and vital, and yet it was underutilized by any standard that you look at today. So maybe what we need is to look at those places to create a little bit of messness, you know, a little bit of less manicured areas. And so the dog parks, I don't know how they fit into that, but because there were this discussion of places that are underutilized, it reminded me of that. Briones may be a good place in Barron Park, but I agree that we need to look first at North Palo Alto, and in that I would consider El Camino again. I want to say another thing, which is in Mountain View, they're doing a strategic plan for their parks right now. And the thing that is surfacing more than anything is they don't have enough parkland. And so what the city has been looking at is purchasing homes to create more parkland. And obviously you can't get 4 acres doing that, but you can get a dog park And so maybe that's what we need to look at as well. Are there opportunities, maybe some kind of public-private partnership between residents who really want a dog park and the city to buy a parcel in North Palo Alto for a dog park? I think that was one of the things Mountain View is looking at and is already like identifying locations to buy homes, to turn them into those specific smaller parks that people crave and need and are so important. So what else do I have here? I wrote all these notes. I'm sorry, just one more second. I agree with the liaisons that the temporary fencing probably is not a good idea. People do get used to temporary things and expect them to stay there, and then you can't really remove them. I've seen that more than once. And I think it's a good idea for the Barron Park group to come to consensus, but I would advise not to include ballpark in that discussion any further. When you have a gem, you don't load a lot of stuff on it. You give it space, and this one has so much wildlife and so much going on there that people love. And I understand the interest. Like I said, when you have something really beautiful, there's always people who want to use it. But the more we break one wholesome thing into, parse it into different parks and different uses, the whole system starts breaking up. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Oche?
Thank you, Chair. Big shout out to everyone who joined this evening, especially for you, Christian. You came in person. Thank you. And also to Carol for sharing the slides of very, very adorable dogs. I don't have one, but I'm happy that you shared those pictures. I just wanted to reiterate what Winter said when she spoke. She talked about the survey. I'm not sure how the survey was done, or maybe I missed that. And also to ask if that can be redone to cover more target audience in the community, to have more information from different people that it affects, just to be sure that we have the right data. Big thank you to you, Commissioner Brown and Commissioner Cripps, for the great job you've done. It's definitely a lot of work has gone into this, even before I joined the PLC. So thank you for all of that. I have a neighbor who does a great job with dogs. And I'm really curious to know if there might be grants that we could explore for dog parks to make our existing parks better. I don't know, but I'm just calling that out. It might be something we might want to explore. And also just a little bit to take it, it's dog related, but I wanted to ask Darren, during your detailed presentation, thank you for that. You talked a little bit about enforcement. I don't know if you could shed more light on that, because I know a couple of weeks back, a friend of mine reached out to me to complain about how a dog owner left their dog to, off leash, and the dog was hostile, and the lady was taking pictures of her kids. It was a little bit messy. And I don't know how, I had told my friend to send a letter to, the commission to talk about that. But, most times people don't want to just get involved and all of that. But I'm just curious to know how we want to go ahead or advance enforcement in parks. And also, since this is an information session, I'm curious to know what's next. So those are my questions. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that good question. The context in the staff report, or the conversation that mentioned enforcement, was really around that pilot program idea. So you'd have a given number of hours. Who's going to be there when the hours end to see that people are now leashing up their dogs as required? And during that conversation, I had done some fairly extensive tours of the city of Mountain View's off-leash areas. And this is a couple of years back, so things may have changed. But I spent hours at every single one of them to see what it was like, because I wanted to tell my community, this is what I found. I'm not going to suggest this unless I really know what it looks like. And what I saw was the people were off leash before and after the closing. So the question of would we have someone there to enforce it and would there be an enforceable issue? The answer is yes, that there is an issue, and the answer is no, we wouldn't have anyone there during those hours to make sure they're following things. We have such a limited team of ACOs or animal control officers who are not only in our community, but other adjacent partner communities enforcing those kind of laws. When I ask them, can you focus on a few key areas? I'm getting reports, just like the one you mentioned. A person says, we've got a problem with dogs off leash. They're causing issues. Can you please enforce it? If I give them a really narrow window of time, they can try to work that in. But to try to be at all the places at once, it's just not realistic. And so that's the enforcement issue, is we just don't have enough resources. And to a large degree, we've got to ask people to follow the rules and self-enforce. That said, you can go to just about any park and find a dog off leash just about any day. And I've seen it for a very long time. The ACOs, as I mentioned, do the best they can. The park rangers for the open space do the best they can. But it's never fully addressed in my perception. Oh, and the what's next, we have the slide, the real focus in terms of, I guess the two key pieces are, let's get those two built out that we've already got in process. That's the Mitchell Park expansion and new small dog park, and then the Bullware one that's underway. So those are the two that I think we're going to be pushing hard on, and then continue to work with our liaisons to see what we can find in North Palo Alto.
Thank you. I'm also excited that the Ballway Park has a dog park component. I will talk more when I share the reports on the sustainability liaison, because I see it as something we could leverage on for an award for the Ballway Park. So thank you.
So I'm curious about the pilot. Are we going to do a pilot, say for downtown North or not? If there is a pilot, how long the pilot will be? Is it 3 months, 6 months? What's the sort of time range?
Yeah, so I think as Vice Chair Brown had said, I think right now the thinking is we'd keep that as a tool and not actively pursue it at the moment. Really focus on getting the ones that are in the works done, built out, and then continue that search for a fenced, dedicated dog park in North Palo Alto.
Okay.
Thank you. And thank you to everyone who's spoken. I grew up with dogs and have a great appreciation and fondness for dogs. Allergies, and kept dogs out of my household more recently, and much to the consternation of certainly one of my daughters. But I appreciate the problem and the complexity of this, but it is I know it is something that people are very passionate about, and for good reasons. I do agree with a lot of comments that fellow commissioners have made this evening. I think it is important, based on the amount of resources that we stay the course with the priorities that we have established. I agree that Bull Park is certainly raised their voice, and their wishes are heard and need to be considered in the next round of prioritization. I do appreciate the advice that Vice Chair offered in terms, and others kind of alluded to focus on consensus as we work forward in the background in Bull Park, or in the Barron Park area. I think Bull Park clearly has some potential conflicts and controversy, and I think I can say from what I've seen before my time in the commission and while on the commission, historically sites with controversy don't move forward as dog parks. And so I think it would be well advised to focus on the other two sites within Barron Park that you've identified. I appreciate that the pace of municipal government can be frustrating. I share this frustration. Unfortunately, for a variety of reasons since the pandemic, timelines have increased, and so it's a reality that we have to work with. And I know I'm hearing from a number of members of the public that this is an issue that's overdue and an important issue already. And unfortunately, you're gonna have to ask for your patience on this. Comment I do have regarding some of the North Palo Alto sites, potential concerns with the El Camino Park site. That grass area is used for soccer warm-ups on occasion, not heavily used and overused, but it is used. As a matter of contrast, at the Mayfield soccer fields, there's a warm-up area between the two fields. There is no warm-up area at El Camino Park, and it's out there this weekend, and lots of teams playing in a tournament, and it was a very thin area along the edges of the grass that can be used very awkwardly and obstructively for warming up, and really the grass area is the preferred place. So I think that's an important consideration. Those are my, I also agree with the concerns that people have vocalized regarding temporary fencing. That's a summary of my comments. Do others have follow-up comments or questions? Vice Mayor Stone, anything?
I just thank the commission, staff, and all the residents that have participated as well. This is long overdue, fulfilling a clear community need, and interested to see where the conversation goes from here.
Thank you. And this is not the end. This is a stop along the road of the journey. Any final comments, Darren?
No, thank you, Chair. Just thanks to everybody who's been helping.
Well, thank you again to all the members of the public who took the time with us this evening. It's a important role that you serve, being able to speak directly to us and share your feelings and providing us helpful information that helps us find our direction moving forward on behalf of the community that we serve. And thank you again to staff for all their efforts on this, and to the ad hoc members for all of your work. Thank you. That concludes the business items on our agenda this evening. I'm sorry, does not. We have the ad hoc committees and liaison updates. Would anyone like to share any updates to start? Shani?
I asked staff for a list of all the projects that are happening in the Baylands. At different stages of development, there are 11 large projects. That doesn't include ongoing maintenance and operations, and it doesn't include events and a lot of other activities that are happening in the Baylands. I would love to see a presentation on that if staff has time, because each one of those projects has some impacts on the environment. And when you look at them cumulatively, either in time or in space, almost every place in the Baylands is impacted for long periods of time. So, and I can talk to staff more about that. But I think it's also very important to recognize that our beavers made national news. A lot of different channels were talking about the fact that beavers are back in Palo Alto. And I briefly mentioned it before, but this is a big deal, having beavers back here. Beavers almost went extinct because people hunted them for their furs, or because they killed them because they were digging and chopping trees and so on. So having them back reproducing in Palo Alto is very good news, and hopefully people will get to see them at some point, even a little bit. Thank you.
Thank you. Could you provide a little more detail and examples of some of the projects? Just to put things in a little better perspective?
There is the tide gate repair that Valley Water has a 4-year, they canceled that project, but they're still looking to do something and the timeline is not clear. There's the advanced water purification system that is expected to start this year and be completed at the end of 2025. The horizontal levee, which we have heard about already, the sewer line rehabilitation project, that's also in the Baylands, and we've heard about that before. There are parts of Bixby Park that are not finished and need to be still developed as part of the conceptual plan that called for more planting islands, park seating, signage, a larger parking lot. And I'm not sure what happened, maybe Darren can answer with the Boring Owl plan. Was that complete? I didn't think it was.
It was complete, yeah.
Okay. And then there are other levee repairs, and there is the water quality control plant has an outfall pipeline. There is projects in the golf course and both netting projects and a new driving range and youth practice area. So there's stuff going on at the, anyway, there's a lot going on. And this
Thank you.
doesn't include
Thanks. I think that
the
provides some color.
airport.
And Darren, what, do you have any comments from the staff perspective in terms of how the holistic impact on the Baylands is being considered by staff from all of these projects, and which departments this touches on?
Yeah, it is being considered. The key leaders of each project for these different departments are aware of the other projects. And to a degree, I'd say there's a little coordination of trying to not to have too much overlap. In some cases, I guess the old Tidegate project is an example where there's not a lot of flexibility. That was a 4-year project, and there was certainly going to be overlap with the horizontal levee, potentially with eventually doing Bixby Park and perhaps a few other things, and not a lot of options to steer clear of one another, except for the fact that, you know, they're partially in different areas of a very large preserve. But I think they're cognizant of those concerns on multiple levels, on our visitors, on parking, on wildlife. As you disturb one area with trucks coming in and doing jobs, animals are relocating to other spots. Is that area also being impacted by trucks and construction? That's of concern and something we need to be thinking about. And I'd say staff is aware.
Thanks. And just getting back to the Tidegate project, that's been shelved in lieu of looking at taking a more holistic approach in terms of the or can
Yeah, so the 4-year full replacement has been shelved, and what they're looking at is other structural repairs they can do to the existing facility. And that project would be more like 3 to 4 months, 6 months. It'd be one construction window as opposed to 4, which we had been looking at the replacement project.
And why was that decision made?
I don't know that I can get into it right now. It's a rather robust answer, and I'm not sure I have all the facts at hand.
Thank you. Other commissioners? Updates on any of the ad hocs or liaison roles?
So our racket ad hoc, Nellis with his COVID has had most of that report, but Darren covered it in his staff report.
Yeah, I did receive an email from Nellis that I can
Okay.
find to share. Would be a good time. Nope, now's not a good time since I'm reconnecting to the internet. If someone else would like to comment on something, or if you have more.
No, there's nothing else on the racket except for we're still interested in getting some kind of a pricing for temporary or permanent lighting for the Cubberley tennis courts. And so the ad hoc is asking and working on that. And I think we're also very interested in the composition of the committee, the racket court committee. So from pickleball and tennis. And really, I think kudos to Adam for his very sensitive handling of the tennis and the pickleball groups, because people seem to be moving well together.
Thank you. Anyone else? We'll be after Nelson a bit.
Yeah, I think I can go. For the recreation program, Commissioner Way and I met with Kayla, the city staff, to discuss next steps to help us achieve our goal to be able to expand more affordable programs on the Enjoy online catalog. We requested for a report that would help us break down per target audience, program type, and different categories. We were unable to get that, but Kayla was gracious to share a link with us this afternoon. And I believe that the next steps for us would be for Commissioner Way and I to do a deep dive and probably have a working session where we try to go through the trends to see how many programs and then recommend opportunities that we can explore as a city. Also, I just wanted to follow up on a question that Commissioner Kleinhaus mentioned last month about insurance. Kayla helped us to clarify that the city will cover individual volunteers who are willing to offer programs, but would not cover any organization that requires insurance. So I think that's a good thing. But the volunteer would need to go through the city's screening process to be able to meet up with, the requirements that the city has already. I don't know if you want to add anything, Commissioner Way.
Yeah, I think you covered all we have talked about, and there seemed to be the bandwidth issue of getting more volunteer on board and how to get the insurance resolved. That's seemed to be the bottleneck. And hopefully after we done the deep dive of the link Kayla sent today, we can put out a proposal to see how we can balance both extending the oversubscribed Enjoy program versus looking to more affordable or reduced pricing program and bring volunteers on board without taking too much of a staff time, which they are overloaded right now. Do you want to talk about the grant, Commissioner Cribb, or you want me to take the lead?
Yeah, just to do a summary. Do you want to go ahead or?
Okay. Yes, so the ad hoc for the grant, I'm grateful. Commissioner Cribb also mentioned earlier in the presentation by the environmental volunteers how they get their grants. So I have a few questions as a new commissioner, just try to understand the situation, and we want to be helpful by understanding that. So we trying to gather the total grants we received in the last 4 years. We had a meeting with Kristen and hopefully get maybe a ballpark amount if there's no spreadsheet around. And then we also try to understand the main challenges applying for grants besides grants management and staff bandwidths. And how do we address the staff's concern and provide a solution to not burden more city staff? Especially we understand from the meeting with Kristen that the city has hired a consultant to look into grants for all departments. And we're also wondering, especially me, whether we can piggyback public works grants related to the parks. Maybe a question Darren can answer on that.
Can you
Us.
explain it to me a little bit more? Piggyback on Public Works?
Yeah, so we understand there's a city consultant working on grants for all the departments. So the questions, one is, do we have a spreadsheet or information what the consultant's working on so we can avoid duplication efforts?
Ah.
And the second is, say other department, for example, Public Works have grants related to the parks. Could we piggyback with them?
Yes to the first question. The consultant does have a spreadsheet of grants that they're tracking and ones that they're recommending as possibilities for different areas within the city. The piggybacking with Public Works, I think it's possible. Oftentimes they're for the same thing. So Public Works may apply for a playground grant. In fact, just the other day, Public Works and I were discussing that playground grant we saw. It was like a 50% off a particular brand of playground. And we discussed the feasibility of it. Unfortunately, it's not a brand we typically use. We already have used a given particular brand repeatedly, and it's been helpful and successful. So we're kind of sticking with that. So that's a case where we're looking at the same grant together, see if it'd be applicable. In this case, it wasn't, but yes, we often communicate on it. I don't know that we've ever said, you've got a grant, we'd like to add on to it or apply for another area of the same one. Usually it's in consultation if it's in a park, so it wouldn't be quite so standalone.
So should we, would Commissioner Cribb and I get a link or the spreadsheets the city consultants working on, so we won't make duplication efforts to reach
Yes.
out to people to get to the same grant for our parks?
Yes, I'll get that and send it to you.
And also, do you have any other questions?
I don't have any other questions, but just to sort of comment as we're trying to figure out whether it's worthwhile. I mean, our work was to see, is it important to do grants or should we stop talking about them? And so we've created this list of potential foundations in our area that do give grants, and we've been working on that. We also put together a short list of the things that we know that we would love to have that grants could help us with. And the top one for me is the Bixby Park, not park, but the thing in Foothill Park that's needed attention for such a long time that you sent me all the information on.
Buckeye Creek?
Yeah, Buckeye Creek, I'm sorry. And then in addition to that, the Foothill Preserve Interpretive Center, which is on our wish list of things that we could find a grant for. The extending the use of the tennis courts right now that we have with lights, and the Magical Bridge playground bathrooms are in desperate need of a grant. And I think that we could probably find one. So I think we added middle school athletics scholarships to our wish we could find a grant for these things. And so that's what we've been working on. And it's been pretty interesting to both develop the history of what we've been doing and also look to the future and see if we can find some places. We will be having a meeting with the Silicon Valley Community Foundation to understand how they give grants, why they give grants, and if Palo Alto really is appropriate for any of their grants. So that's meeting is coming up soon. So.
Great.
And I also have a question maybe to fellow commissioner and staff. So what is our commissioners' relationship versus local elected officials, such as, Anna Shu, Josh Becker in our area? They're all very passionate about climate change and wonder whether they have funds for local parks. What's the protocol? Do we reach out to them, or have they working with our local elected officials office at all?
Vice Mayor, would you like to comment? I don't know if he's still with us.
Chair, I might suggest it might be a good one to discuss with Kristen. If
Kristen,
you meet with
okay.
her again, I think she might be able to provide some guidance on that.
Okay, thank you.
I'm going to speak for Nellis now. Commissioner Freeman is not with us, but he forwarded some comments, some updates regarding Coverly. Not much has changed. Staff is going to City Council on October 16th to get direction on next steps related to the city possibly acquiring more acreage at Coverly. And regarding what is happening with golfers still encroaching in areas where they shouldn't be, with enhanced efforts to inform and educate golfers, the issue of encroachment into sensitive habitat areas has greatly improved. Golfers are being reminded of the importance to stay out of sensitive habitat at either check-in or starting point. In addition to ropes, red stakes, and fencing throughout the course, 40 signs were installed in July advising golfers to stay out of sensitive areas. Additional fencing has been added during the summer as well. Regarding the State Water Board and monitoring of wetland areas of the golf course, an ecology consultant is performing an updated survey of plant species in the wetlands and developing a plan to bring the golf course into compliance per the Water Board's requirements. Regarding the status of the partner agreement with First Tee, staff and the First Tee continue to discuss a partner agreement. In the interim, other related matters are being addressed, such as updating a co-sponsorship for facility use to further continue the relationship between the city and the First Tee of Silicon Valley. And I'm not available for questions. Other updates? Andy? Want to comment on community garden or not community gardens, but park dedication?
Just that we're working with Darren and staff to bring this back next month or the month after. I thought we'd sort of cover this in the agenda. I was sort of looking to Darren on timeline, but I know we have made progress.
We met to discuss.
Yes, we met to discuss it, and yeah, we have progress. We're just not sure if we want to bring it forward right now or wait a little bit longer for the full recommendation. So.
And there are two sites we're looking at, and one's more straightforward than the other. Okay. Anything else before we move on to talking about the agenda and any other questions and comments?
Excuse me, Chair.
Yes, Joy.
Just a quick update for the youth liaison and then the sustainability liaison as well. So we, as reported last month, Commissioner Way and I had a meeting with Christopher some few weeks back. And Christopher is doing a very great job with the Youth Council. They had their interviews, I think last month, and they also were able to start up like their first meeting and their teen leadership group early this month as well. Just a few days ago, he shared the calendar with us, and we're hoping that we'll be able to give them advance notice and visit or, pay a visit, courtesy visit to the Youth Council and also the Teen Advisory Board as well in one of their meetings, hopefully next month. For the Sustainability Liaison, I had a very productive working session with Jeanette, courtesy of Darren's recommendation, and we reviewed the pre-assessment tool for the Institute of Sustainability Infrastructure. So LEEDS is for buildings, but Institute of Sustainability Infrastructure is for more of, projects like built infrastructure that you see, and part of our packs fall under that category. So we did like a pre-assessment for Ballway Park, the upcoming park. And the great news is that even with the minimal data we had, we already qualified for a silver award, which I think that the city should leverage on and find out ways that we can explore that opportunity to help us meet our 80 by 30 sustainability goals to be, climate neutral by 2030. We also had a meeting with the ISI, so the Institute of Sustainability Infrastructure team, their representative, and they're very happy to, collaborate with us and share, maybe organize like an information session for city staff and, other stakeholders that might be interested in, finding out how we can leverage on this opportunity to help the city get more awards for some of our upcoming projects. Our next steps would be for Jeanette and I to do more, reading into the guide, and also have another working session where we can, try to find out or match supporting documents that would be helpful for the award if we decide to go with that. So just to call that out, and also to see what the city staff recommendations would be for the next steps in terms of the information session that they are offering. They've also told us that they're happy to train our city staff for free, and I paid so much money for mine, so I'll be very glad if the city can, make the best use of that opportunity as well. So, thank you.
Thank you. And I actually have a few updates. I did meet with Peter Gollinger, the urban forester, and got an update on where they're at with looking to present to both the commission, this commission, and the Planning and Transportation Commission regarding potential updates to the urban forest master plan, or not to the master plan, to the Title 8 tree ordinance as directed by City Council. And they'll likely be meeting with PTC and Parks and Rec either next month or potentially in November. It's a matter of sorting out what availability there would be for planning and transportation, and there's not a clear preference or direction in terms of meeting with one commission first versus the other. So we'll expect to meet with, get a presentation either in October or in November. Regarding the Hawthorne's Mid-Peninsula area planning, the Public Access Working Group will be meeting again on October 26th. That will be at the Mid-Pen headquarters on El Camino in Los Altos at 6 p.m. Also, regarding safe routes, Sunday is Bike Palo Alto. It's the first time the event has been held since the pandemic, and it's starting off at Fairmeadow Elementary School, and is available to highlight the safe and less commonly known bike routes within the city. And it also includes some bike maintenance and helmet fitting and bike tune-ups and that kind of thing. Any other comments before we close out this item? Okay, then final agenda item is the Commissioner Board Member questions, comments, and announcements, and future agenda discussion. Any questions, comments, or announcements first before we talk about agenda?
I'm just curious to know what the next step should be in terms of the informational session that the organization that I just talked about is willing to offer, and then find out what the protocol should be and if it's something we can explore.
If the question is for me, I need to discuss it with Jeanette some more and see what staff capacity is. I'll have to get back to you.
Awesome, thank you.
Yeah, and so please get back to once you have the information, we can discuss that in our agenda planning meetings. So does anyone else have comments, questions? Okay, so moving on to agenda for next month. Yes. We have teen advisory.
Adam Howard had mentioned that the Teen Advisory Council could give us an update presentation in October. And then I've got 3 potential ones that we've discussed, one being the park dedication, depending on how we want to handle that. We've, as you mentioned, one that I think could be prepackaged and come as a standalone, whereas the other one is going to require some more time. So we can discuss the strategy and best practice to get that either packaged or individually. And then the tree protection ordinance that you just highlighted, we can confirm with Peter, hopefully sooner rather than later, unless he happened to give you an ETA on when he would know.
So he can do either October or November.
Oh, I see. Okay.
And I think October probably works.
And then lastly, it's the foothills item.
Yes.
And I'm a little behind on that. I have a meeting tomorrow with Public Works Engineering to talk through some things, and but I have more work to do on that one. So I'm not sure if that one will be ready for October, but
Right, so we have potentially 4 items in October: the Teen Advisory Council, Tree Protection Ordinance, Foothills Nature Preserve PIO, and Park Dedication. So I think we should probably look to bring 3 of those to the October meeting. And then hopefully we could do master plan review and recreation programs in November. Wellness Center.
I don't have any additional information. I'm waiting for Peter to schedule a community meeting, which has to take place before the presentation to the commission. So
And is there a meeting scheduled?
it is not scheduled yet.
there was a tentative date. There were tentative dates in September, which didn't work out. Then there were there's a tentative date in October, but no confirmation. So,
Correct.
correct?
Yes,
Yeah.
Okay, so there's a tentative date, but it's not confirmed yet.
that's correct.
And then hopefully in November, we'll have whichever one of the 4 items on the October potential list that falls out. And there's also potential for an e-bike update or grant opportunities.
I would hope that we would be able to do something on the wellness center in November. Is that a possibility?
I think it is. It's possible.
Yes, it's desirable. Wasn't hearing as much optimism in your initial comments, but I guess we need to get that community meeting in. But I think it's realistic to expect that the community meeting will be before Thanksgiving. And our October meeting is actually after Thanksgiving, which helps segue into another subject, which we'll get to when we finish the agenda discussion. Are we wrapped up on agenda then? Darren, is there anything more on agenda? Anyone else?
So could I ask, have the dates been confirmed for November and December yet?
That's the subject
you already
that we're
say? I'm
segueing
sorry.
into, yes. Stealing my thunder. Of course, it's an important question. So normally we end up rescheduling our November and December meetings to avoid conflicts with Thanksgiving and holidays at the end of December. This year, November works out well for us. Thanksgiving is November 23rd. The 4th Tuesday is November 28th. So I think we should be fine to meet on that date, and probably would not want to reschedule for the 21st, the week of Thanksgiving. Then for December, the 4th Tuesday is December 26th, which is not a good date. I think we've confirmed with staff there's availability on the 12th and the 19th in chambers here on the 19th and in the community room on the 12th. So I think the preference would be to meet on the 19th so that there will be 3 weeks between the November and December meetings, unless there were a number of commissioners, unless that date is problematic for people. So Tuesday, the 19th is what we're targeting. Does anyone have a problem they know of at this time for that date? Okay. Okay, so I think we're tentatively aiming for Tuesday, the 19th. We need to check with Commissioner Freeman as well. And if anybody has concerns with that date.
Yeah, I will be out of the country, so I may ask for absence, but if you do a week earlier, 12th, I'll be still here.
Does anyone have any issues with December 12th?
I do, sorry.
Yeah, I'll be in the UK. I don't know how to juggle the time.
Okay, so the 12th does not work for you, Ann?
Does not.
Okay.
There's a tiny possibility it could, but
And being, would other days, I guess
I try to see, maybe I can zoom in. I'll be in the UK for family vacation. I'll see if I can zoom in. Let me see.
okay, well, why don't you, if you have further thoughts on this, please go ahead and send me an email
Okay.
so we can sort out.
before we adjourn, I just got a text from the former president of the Palo Alto Pickleball Club, Monica Williams, who had her hand raised, but she evidently didn't get to speak. So I'm going to suggest to her, rather than reading this, that she send an email
Yes, please.
to us, and then it can be distributed.
Yep.
Is that good?
That'd be great. Thank you.
Okay.
All right. I think there's no further comments. We'll call this meeting to a close. Thank you. Thank you to staff for all of your efforts. Thank you, Commission. And thank you, the public, again, for your participation. And we'll see you next month.
Thank you.